What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to talk about the greatest Royal Rumble. We're not talking about like 92 or 2007 or so. We're talking Saudi Arabia because that's a thing. So we're going to break down this random ass event that they decided to add onto the card, even though they said last year that they were going to get rid of the events and not have as many of them. They just kind of added a random one. And this random one has been total chaos, but the pay-per-view point itself is not going to be chaos. We have order. We plan things out. That's what we do here. The people that are going to be doing that for this edition, I am, of course, your host as always, Tony Mango, and joining me pretty much at always at this point, we've got Callum Wiggins.
Mahaban, Tony.
C.
That's hello in Arabic for the less educated.
Sure it is. Prince Ali, Fabulous C, Alibaba. That's something.
That's goodbye, right? Yeah.
I think so. And Open Sesame also to Robert DeFelice.
Hola Salima. I don't know. I heard that on the Flintstones once. I'm not as educated.
Hola Salima, that's like the latest signing for NXT, right?
Yes.
Just don't say Allahu Akbar because then this podcast will be a bomb.
Nah, I'll just say Admiral Akbar instead.
Yeah.
It's a trap. So if you've gotten past the racist portion of this...
Culturally insensitive, not racist.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Let's before we get into like matches itself, let's just talk about the whole idea that this isn't Saudi Arabia. And normally I would be like, oh, let's not make fun of the location and stuff like that, or let's make fun of every location because everybody should be made fun of at all points. But one question I want to ask you guys, what's the name of the fucking event location? Because I am seeing here the King Abdullah International Stadium, King Abdullah Sports City, King Abdullah Sports City Stadium. Anybody know what the hell the actual name of the building is?
I've heard King Abdullah Stadium in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, so I'm going with that.
Yeah, Jeddah's the location. I've only seen the King Abdullah Sports City.
So the thing I'm seeing the most, and this is what it says on Wikipedia, at least on the opening intro paragraph, is King Abdullah Sports City's King Abdullah International Stadium in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. God damn, man. Sometimes it's like, I don't even like when they have, the KFC Yum Stadium or something, because it's like, it should just be like the Spectrum or like that kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
the Silverdome.
I'm really missing those names.
But I'm assuming, and if anybody knows any information about this stuff, just drop it in the comments and let me know, because if you are more educated about this, give me a little bit of schooling here. But I'm assuming King Abdullah Sports City is like a complex, and the King Abdullah International Stadium is like the main part of that.
Could be.
Maybe. I don't know. But that's already kind of strange, as well as...
What is the max capacity in this building?
Ooh, God. I don't have a clue what that is. Especially because I don't even know what I'm supposed to click on for the thing. Oh, now it's also called the Shining Jewel or the Jewel. So what the fuck? So this says, at least as far as the main stadium thing, it does classify that as the International Stadium, a full capacity of 62,241.
Wow.
That could actually grow because that's obviously for when it's used for soccer matches. Because obviously with WWE you have people on the floor as well, so it could actually get bigger than that.
So if that's 62,241, I don't know, maybe 63,000 max. I can't imagine you can fit that many more people, not another 800.
Yeah, I wonder how packed it will be. I don't know how big. I mean, obviously this is the part of the show is to make WWE's presence in Saudi Arabia a lot bigger, but I don't know how big it is at the moment.
Well, it sold out, didn't it? I think it sold out.
It did it?
I kind of remember seeing some kind of a thing that said something about it being sold out. Although you never really know what sell out means in WWE because, they could say like 85,216 people are here tonight, and it's like, but there's actually 84,700 tickets sold, or you know what I mean? Like they could do that kind of a thing. That's going to be a little bit weird. Standing room only is like something in some different kind of areas, and we're not even sure what the hell stadium this is, so it's kind of hard to tell. But this is a weird instance because not only is it an instance like with not knowing exactly what the stadium is like and all that, but they've also apparently have on the floor, they've got like padded seats. That's something that's going around now. People are sending pictures about that. It's like maybe like lounge chair looking things.
I'm looking at a video right now. In this video, the Snapchat filter has it tagged as the Al Jawahara Stadium in the King Abdullah Sports City.
Oh my
So
God,
I guess,
I'm getting sick and tired of this having 1,000 names.
So I'm guessing the Sports City is the complex, and then there's just different kinds of stadiums.
I think it's just one of these stadiums that modern stadiums do tend to have like this luxury feel to them as well. So I guess it's just pay a little bit extra, you get that sort of level of comfort and like the more of the padded stuff, and then the people in the cheap seats just get the usual standard stuff.
Well, the way that this has been booked, with it going back and forth and changing matches and changing everything that goes along with it, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they changed the name of the fucking stadium 6 times. It's going to be a Friday afternoon. That's already weird, too. 11 a.m. is going to be the start of the pre-show, and nothing's been announced for the pre-show, so unfortunately, I'm assuming that it's going to be an hour straight of just, let's look at the matches on the card. Blah. But it's still going to be...
I'm sure they'll throw the Cruiserweights on the pre-show.
Well, I'm just going to ask, like, who's going to host it? Because Renee Young's not going to be there, surely.
Well, the announcement beforehand was Booker T, Jerry Lawler, and Jim Ross are going to be working this event. So they might do it. Maybe, like, Lawler is his typical spot, Booker's his typical spot, and Jim Ross takes over for Renee Young. That makes sense.
Which I'm into, but I feel like people are tired of JR, unfortunately. Like, the last couple times he's done commentary, they've just rained down hate on JR.
Well, I think people are sick of kickoff shows in general, to be honest. So it's kind of like, can't be any worse than having JR on it.
Well, it's a pre-show, too. You know, not a whole lot of people are going to be watching it. A lot of people actually probably aren't going to be watching this live no matter what, because it's a Friday afternoon for everybody in America. And, you know, obviously time zones are different here and there. Like somebody on your end, Callum, like you finally get an event that's not at like the horrible time of night, you know?
Yeah, no, I get to watch it during, like, basically it starts as soon as I end work for the day. So I can start watching it basically from the second I leave work until it will end about 10 o'clock at night for me. So I could even get onto the post show for it, and I can still be asleep before the start of the next day. So it's amazing.
I know a lot of people that are just kind of like, well, I don't really need to see this because it's not a real event. And a lot of people that are like, well, it's Friday afternoon, I'm at work. So that is sort of weird too.
This is the realest event of the year so far.
I was going to say, anyone who says, I don't need to watch this, isn't paying attention to this card.
Well, it's because it also gives this kind of vibe of being something extra. Like, if you look at the card, every title's on the line except for the women's. We're going to talk about that for sure. But we already had 2 Royal Rumbles for sure this year. We've already had 2 Battle Royals on top of that. There's nothing on the line for the Greatest Royal Rumble. It is just a repeat of a previous event, sort of, because you've got rematches from WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble logo, like, you know, that's kind of one of those things. It's a Friday, so that gives it a weird vibe. Backlash is coming up next week, so it almost feels like this is like a pre-Backlash kind of thing. It's a strange occurrence. Like, this isn't going to be some regular thing. They might do an event in Saudi Arabia every year, but it's not going to be the greatest Royal Rumble every year. If it is, that's really fucking dumb.
And next year will be the greatest Hell in a Cell.
Maybe.
And it'll just be Shane McMahon at the top falling over 5 times, like one time after another.
What do you guys think about the name of this? Because I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it. You shouldn't call anything the greatest until it's happened.
Well, is that like a cultural thing?
No, I think it's just trying to make it sound as big as like possible. I think if you want to, I would have been happy enough with the biggest Royal Rumble because at least that's accurate. To have a 50-man Royal Rumble, it's like literally the biggest Royal Rumble in history. But calling it the greatest of something, it just makes it sound like all right. So if this bombs, this like you've named it so poorly, like.
Well, see, that's why I think maybe there is like a cultural thing. And if you could tell by the beginning of this episode, we have no tie to any of this culture. We have no idea what the fuck's going on and stuff. But I kind of think that maybe in that culture, greatest is used as like a regular descriptor of like
quantity.
Like great, not so, maybe quantity, maybe quality as well. But like greatest
you mean that's like
doesn't need to
type thing.
Yeah, like one of those kind of things. And greatest could mean just biggest in certain ways. So it does make a little bit of sense in that way, but I don't like the descriptor. I think that even the idea of them doing the Royal Rumble itself is still stupid. I mean, I love the Royal Rumble. It's my favorite singular match of the year. And if not my favorite pay-per-view event of the year because of that match, it's up there usually. It's the one I'm excited for pretty much the most. But I don't want another Royal Rumble. And for this to be the greatest one, and it's 50-man, it also kind of bugs me that it's not 60-man, but we'll get into that a little bit too. I really, when they announced this, I was like, oh, that's dumb. That was my first reaction. And that hasn't changed ever since then. I wish this would have been something else. Like, maybe they called it... well, you can't call that. Like, if you look at the events that they haven't listed yet for this year, we don't have Battleground. That's why I was saying, but you can't call it Battleground. That'll just seem, like, horribly insensitive. Yes. But we don't have No Mercy. And we don't have Great Balls of Fire, which I hope that they just never bring back. And
Great Balls of Fire sounds so much better in Saudi Arabia.
Right, yeah, you can't really do that, but we don't have Roadblock.
Capital Punishment.
And Capital Punishment.
I guess that rules out War Games too.
Yeah, War Games, couldn't do that one. I really kind of hope or wish that they would have done with like No Mercy.
Well, it's the King Abdullah Stadium, right?
Or whatever we've agreed on.
So I don't want to be that guy, but if you're in the King Abdullah Stadium or Sports City, why isn't it the King of the Ring?
Because they totally want to use that for the UK show.
Yeah, and if they call it King of the Ring, that means they'll have to do a King of the Ring tournament, which
is a lot easier to put together than a 50-man Royal Rumble.
Actually, though,
but it's not as spectacular. It's not as spectacular.
Well, on top of that, Jerry Lawler was saying in his podcast, he said, I don't know if I'm able to use my king persona because it could be one of those things where it's considered offensive.
Well, what is he going to use it for? It's not like he's going to be seeing a lot of puppies in the arena anyway.
But they say Jerry the King Lawler. I guess it has to be. We're joined by Jerry Lawler.
I think that's what they're going to do because in different countries and stuff, different things mean different things. And that could be the type of thing where they're like, you can't call yourself king. We have a king and that's offensive. Like, it's weird,
The game of games for this.
And for anybody that's listening to this and thinking that means that we're criticizing another country just because it's like another country, America's fucking stupid as hell too. So, you listen back on our old podcast where we're talking about how awful everything is in America.
Go back to last week's mailbag. We went off on Trump for 20 minutes.
Exactly. It's just every country is dumb and everybody in the world is dumb. So, that's a nice way to put it. So, I could assume that they would never be able to do a King of the Ring thing here anyway, but maybe they could have called this just something special, something different, Maybe they give it a brand new name. You mentioned the word spectacular. Maybe they could have called this or this is a really dumb name off the top of my head, but like the Spectacular Showdown. You know what I mean? Like they could have done
Spectacular Showdown in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, like they could have done that. We had the Beast in the East special, and that was just like a random extra WWE Network show. This could have been the Saudi Arabia Spectacular, and I think it would have been slightly better than the Royal Rumble thing. Granted,
I almost said Beast in the Middle East.
Beast in the Middle East? They could have done it. They could have done it, you know? Brock Lesnar's on the card. So.
Which it's just gone on like, as we've proven in the Smark Madness tournament, which you can check on smarkoutmoment.com. Why not buy a t-shirt while you're there as well? You could. It's the idea that the Royal Rumble match is the best gimmick match. I know obviously it's the idea like we don't want another Royal Rumble because it loses meaning if this match itself doesn't have any stakes attached to it. But it's the biggest showcase of getting every single superstar you possibly can and then giving them a chance to show off in one single match. And that's kind of just the main reason they're doing it. It's to the biggest showcase. It's WWE's best match. It's getting all of their superstars in one like showing to the wider public that might not know who exactly all of them are. So it works. It works in concept. I obviously understand that it's a bit of a bastardization of like one of the best pay-per-views of the year, but I guess it's worth that sacrifice if it does lead to like reap rewards in terms of a greater following in the area.
What if, and this is just a random pitch, what if they would have called this the Saudi Arabia Scramble, and it would have been they keep the 50-man thing, and you keep the gauntlet. It ends up being every 60 seconds somebody comes out, and you can only be eliminated by, say, pinfall or something like that.
That would get, like, I don't think they'd be able to handle that.
It would be ridiculous, and it's like, how many people can you eliminate in 60 seconds and stuff like that? But, like, you know, maybe it's every 2 minutes, or hell, you know what? Every 5 minutes somebody comes out. It's a gauntlet. It's a scramble, and there's only 20 people in it. You know, like there could have been varieties of this. I think that they went lazy with this event.
So Triple H is a big WCW guy. Why not Battle Bowl, where it's 2 rings? It's 2 battle. They do the Battle Royal, and then the winner of the one ring faces the winner of the second ring, and a regular match.
Yeah, that would be. I would have much rather preferred that. You couldn't do World War III. Can't do that with the 3 rings. But
I mean, give it a few years, and maybe that will be there. But
yeah, they could have done the Battle Bowl thing. Like that would have been exactly the type of thing I'm talking about. That would have been so much more. Just, I mean, it's already a Battle Royal, so you get a lot of people in there, but it's slightly different. And shit, you could have had, say, I don't know, picking 2 random names here. This could have been John Cena winning one of them, Triple H winning the other one, and then those 2 fight. That would have been a much better idea in my mind. And I really kind of hope that maybe next year, if they do another event like this and they want to get everybody on the card, maybe they think about doing something like that instead. Because I just don't want to have another greatest Royal Rumble thing. I don't want that to be the case. Or for them to, every event that they do in Saudi Arabia for the next few years is always the greatest blah, blah, blah. And they just redo another event from the year. The greatest Extreme Rules. The greatest Money in the Bank. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that kind of a thing. So this already started off to me with the very just announcement of this. When they were like, Saudi Arabia is going to have an event. I was like, oh, okay. And then they're like, and it's called the Greatest Royal Rumble. And I was like, dumb. Hate it. That kind of a thing. Granted, when they announce a 50-man Royal Rumble, I'm thinking to myself, does sound kind of cool. But then they start getting into the actual promotion for this. And this has been an insane couple of weeks from WWE. They announced ahead of time John Cena versus Triple H, ladder match between The Miz, Seth Rollins, and Finn Balor, and a guy who hadn't been cleared yet at the time, Samoa Joe. And then they announced the Raw Tag Team Championship was the Bar against defending the titles against the Hardy Boys. Jeff Hardy hadn't been cleared either. Then we start getting into the build from WrestleMania, and that changes things around, and we get the Superstar Shakeup, and that changes things around, and Backlash changes things around, and Backlash gets pushed aside, and all this other kind of stuff. We've gotten people pulled from this match. We've gotten people replaced on this card with other people. The tag titles are all in flux and all this, and at this point, the event is insane, but I get the impression here they are both being lazy and that they just are throwing everything out there because they want this to be a grandiose event, causes a lot of attention to get thrown their way, and they don't really care. Do you guys get that impression?
Yeah, but with the way they've promoted this, I do expect it to be a newsworthy show.
Well, yeah. But I mean, like, the effort that they've put into this, it almost just seems like somebody was pitching. They're like, we have this Saudi Arabia show. We want to make it really big. What do we do? And somebody, whether it was Vince or somebody else, was like, I don't know, like a 50-man Royal Rumble. And they're like, done. What else could we do? Well, John Cena's our big guy. Who do we have him up against? Well, Triple H is really popular. He's one of our legends and stuff. John Cena versus Triple H. Why? Because, fuck it, that's big. Let's put every title on the line. All right, well, who do we have for the titles? I don't know, just we figured it out. Let's get a steel cage. Let's get a ladder match. Let's get this. I'm really surprised that there's no, like, gimmick to every single match. Like, Nakamura and Styles isn't a tables match, and, like, you know, different things like that, because it seems like they're just sort of like, let's bring a bunch of stars in, let's throw everything out there. It's a mess, but at the end of the day, you're either going to go home happy from seeing a mess that was fun, or you're going to bitch about it and we don't care, you already saw it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's just a case of them trying to spin too many plates at once. They put this event on so close after WrestleMania and so soon before Backlash. They had to do the things at WrestleMania to try and make WrestleMania as big as possible. So they had a few title changes there. They decided to, probably at the last minute, put the Nicholas thing in, which put the entire Raw Tag Team Championship situation into completely up into the air. And then you have the draft, which they decided to do before Backlash, as opposed to what many people thought was going to happen, which would happen either at Backlash or the night after Backlash. So it's just a case of them doing too much in a short space of time, which means that this card had to be changed like over and over and over again. I think things like with the we'll still talk about the Undertaker Rusev match, the fact that Rusev was both like pulled from that match every now and again, Chris Jericho was put in and Rusev was put back. That was probably mainly just due to the fact they didn't know if Rusev was staying or going at that point. So I think there's just a lot of... I think they've tried their hardest to promote this and make this as big as possible. And I think it's quite clear that there's a lot of effort that's gone into making this a huge deal by bringing in a lot of like one-off performers and legendary competitors and stuff like that. But it's been like trying to balance that with the actual like week-to-week product has been a challenge.
Well, one thing before we get into the rest of the talk about like the actual specific matches that I want to just bring up is we do know that this is an investor thing and that they have signed some kind of a deal with them for however many years it is. I forget offhand. So you probably want the very first event that you're going to do here to start off with a bang. And this is a loaded card. It's got a lot of people on it, 50-man Royal Rumble and all this other kind of stuff. Do you guys think that this is a case where they're really stacking this because it's just about first impressions mean more than anything else, including we'll sacrifice Backlash if we need to, we'll have the Raw and SmackDown episodes be chaotic for a couple of weeks and potentially even changing up the way that some of the WrestleMania matches were going to go down just because it's like, look, this Saudi Arabia deal is going to bring us a lot of money and that's kind of an important thing right now. So let's do that. And if it's a success, then next year or however many months from now, when we do another event, it'll be more cohesive. Just sort of like, let's make everything crazy so everybody goes, wow, this is the type of thing we're going to get all the time. This is awesome. And then it goes back to normal. Like,
but if they're only going to go once a year, then I think they might always make it crazy for them.
They might, but look at the way that they did shows like Superstars and Main Event. The very first episode was like, we got Undertaker on there. And, you know, like, you're going to see Raw and SmackDown people fight each other and whatever. And then it very, very quickly, like within like 3 or 4 weeks or so, turned into Curtis Axel beats Darren Young and stuff like that.
Right, but that was still on a weekly basis. I just think if the appearances are going to be limited, then they may roll out the hysteria every single time.
I wouldn't be shocked at all if, whether it's a couple months from now or maybe next year, if the next Saudi Arabia show is basically the equivalent of what we're going to get at, like, maybe not Backlash, because Backlash is all messed up right now, but maybe like whatever we get at Extreme Rules, like it'll just be a regular pay-per-view. Not going to be 6 hours or 7 hours or whatever it is. No, like 50-man Royal Rumble type of thing. Like, just sort of, here's all your main titles on the line and a couple other matches. I can see that being the case. 4-hour event. That's it.
I think depending on how like big an investment, like how big a like amount of turnover they can get through these sort of events, I think they'll try and make them special for as long as possible. Just in case that it's an infrequent thing and they can pull out their big guns and they can try and make it not so much like a non-canon event, but an event where like all the big titles are on the line, but very few of them are actually going to change. So it can just be like a glorified house show. But like, I wouldn't be surprised that, as we've seen like through the Jinder Mahal thing as well, in 2 or 3 years' time, we're going to probably have a Saudi Arabia world champion. If this still extends as long as it does, like we've seen that their investment of trying to market to particular countries and areas like dominates anything in terms of like storyline development. Like whether a certain character is like we feel is supposed to be getting the championship, if they've got some sort of either political or geographical motivation behind it, they'll just throw all their plans out the window and just push somebody that's clearly not at that sort of level, but will still push them to the top because of where they're from.
Yeah, because in probably Vince's mind and some other people's, it's sort of like, well, these are props. And if we want the story for this week to be, wouldn't it be interesting if so-and-so won the title, then let's give them the title and we could always just take it off of them.
Yeah, I mean, they've picked a load of people out from Saudi Arabia as part of these tryouts, so they'd see it as like maybe in a couple of years' time as like a big homecoming story that we picked this guy from our tryouts when we first came to Saudi Arabia, and now he's the world champion coming back to Saudi Arabia and something like that. It'd just be that's it. Again, it depends on how profitable this venture proves to be. Because like with the India thing, that proved to be a bit of a bust, really, by investing that much and giving the title to Jinder for as long as they did, and it didn't really reap any sort of results. If this goes really well or it goes really south, then obviously things will change. But there's a lot of like it's seen how so much like behind the scenes is influencing what we're seeing. It's not just in terms of like a storyline or creative thing. It's now like geographically based as well.
And the fact that this storyline stuff is all in flux makes this even harder to sort of figure out, because they've changed everything around so many different times, including the things that they didn't necessarily need to change. And that kind of brings up the first thing I want to talk about here, which is the Cruiserweight Championship. At WrestleMania, we had Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali finish the tournament that started with Enzo Amore leaving, so they didn't plan the Enzo Amore thing. And they, for the most part, I think that they turned that into something positive. You know, the tournament gave a couple of weeks worth of 205 Live to be pretty interesting. They ended with babyface versus babyface. No matter what, people win because both of them are good wrestlers and stuff. And Cedric gets brought into this feud with Buddy Murphy. I almost called him Buddy Holly. And the Buddy Murphy thing gets the rug pulled out from underneath it, and they go with the storyline that he didn't make weight, and that they're going to do this gauntlet match. A replacement's going to be determined, and Kalisto wins. So I'm getting this impression, I don't know if this is true or not, that the only reason they did this is because they want the Buddy Murphy match to happen at Backlash. And it was like, you know, let's not do Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander twice in a row, but let's do something random here. We already know that we've got this 50-man Royal Rumble, and we've got Lesnar and Triple H and Reigns and Hardy and Undertaker and Jericho and all these other people for this event. The Cruiserweight match isn't going to matter. Let's just have Cedric Alexander fight so-and-so. And then they went, well, who's going to be so-and-so? And then they were like, Kalisto. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking even less than that. I'm thinking we don't know how the audience is going to act. But my guess is that they will actually be more of a traditional wrestling audience where they cheer the faces, boo the heels, and they're super into it. They might have picked Kalisto just so the crowd could go lucha lucha, you know?
Maybe.
It might be as simple as that.
Well, I think it goes on the lines of I prefer Buddy Murphy to Kalisto, like just as like characters and as performers in the ring. But I don't have any question in my mind that Kalisto is a more spectacular performer than Buddy Murphy. He's does all of the high flying stuff. He's a lot more agile. So I think
colorful
he was just
costume.
Yeah. So I think he was just put into this match because, like in Saudi, I assume with Saudi Arabian audience, they don't think about the cruiserweights like a lot of the American or like Western world think, which is essentially this is our bathroom break or this is the pre-show, so we don't really care about it. This is a match that people might actually get into if it's good. So they've tried to make it as spectacular as they possibly can for this match. Whereas they can get back to the Buddy Murphy thing because that's more of the direction they actually want to go for in like storyline terms. But for this one-off thing, they probably want the most spectacular, high-flying match they can possibly put on.
Yeah, I can see that because Drew Gulak would not be a high-flying match at all, and Tony Nese certainly wouldn't be. And by the way, Tony Nese, this babyface turn that they're doing, they're going to have to undo it. Because he had his whole little feud that they've been building up with Drew Gulak, and when they had their match during this gauntlet thing, Tony Nese taps out, and the crowd instinctively chants, "You tapped out." You don't do that for a babyface in those scenarios, so clearly the fans are not accepting the idea of Tony Nese being a babyface, and I don't blame them. He comes out and he says, "I've got an 8-pack and you're ugly and shit." It's like, that's not really a babyface kind of move.
I just don't know why Tony Nese is still there. Like, I mean, he's a very good wrestler, but like as a babyface, he's got, like you say, he's got no crowd support, and as a heel, he's very bland. So he just doesn't seem to fit anything. Like why? Like in that gauntlet match, like you've got Hideo Itami and Akira Tozawa, and you're not putting either of them into the match. Like,
he's the type of guy that, in my mind, he's kind of done anything that he could do in 205 Live, and he needs to go to NXT and just be a regular guy.
Yeah.
Just team him up with somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know who, but, you know. Something to think about, though.
Tony Nese and Tino Sabatelli, maybe?
Yeah, maybe something like that. Or anybody that they can figure something out. Tony Nese and Fabian Eichner, or whatever. He wasn't going to win. And as soon as he came out, I started typing out Tony Nese taps out to Drew Gulak because I just knew that it was going to be the case. But Kalisto isn't going to win either. This is Cedric Alexander versus Buddy Murphy going forward. It's not going to suddenly pivot and be Kalisto versus him. So,
well, Kalisto's they did that before, didn't they? They've done that a couple times with Kalisto, where like Del Rio was fighting Cena for the U.S. title, and they just threw Kalisto in there, and Enzo was kind of fighting Neville, and then he was going to make his way to Cedric Alexander, and they threw Kalisto in there. You never know.
They do like to just throw Kalisto into the title picture every now and again. And I don't know why. It's just the marketability thing with the masks and stuff like that. They just want to. He's just a marketing device, really.
Because but he goes lucha.
Yeah, but I just don't think he's going to win this match. So yeah, I'm going Cedric all the way for this one.
Yeah, Cedric Alexander.
That's 3 for Cedric all the way. Now, if we're talking about matches that change, there is a weird precedent for this where John Cena goes for weeks and weeks and weeks and says, "I want a match with The Undertaker. Please say yes or no. Please do something." Literally was the tagline for this. Do something. And Undertaker at WrestleMania just randomly pops up, squashes John Cena, and gives off this impression of like, I didn't really want to do anything, but fuck it, it's WrestleMania, I guess I'm going to fight. And maybe can't wrestle all that much, and that's why it's a quick match, but it really underwhelming in a lot of way. Instead of that being like part of a storyline, they immediately just turn around and go, yeah, by the way, he's got a casket match against Rusev. And we're like, what the fuck is this? What do you mean he's got a casket match against Rusev? First off, he and Rusev are not feuding at all. Second, a casket match? He hasn't had a casket match in God knows how many years. Third, he's just going to pick up and go to Saudi Arabia. 4, I thought he didn't want to fucking do anything. So it must be John Cena is just the person that he didn't want to fight with. If you're talking about like what should be the logical storyline, then the Undertaker should be like, oh, I have no problem fighting. I just didn't want to fight John Cena. But they're not going to address this at all. Nor are they going to address the fact that out of nowhere, right after they announced this, the very next day, I think it was, they pull Rusev and they say, nah, never mind, it's going to be Chris Jericho. And then after a couple of days after that, they go, nah, never mind, it's going to be Rusev again. I got so sick and tired of changing shit around for this event that when they first announced the Rusev thing, I put up the graphic, and I put a thing in there saying, I have no idea why this is happening, but sure, whatever. And then they announced the Chris Jericho thing, and I kept the graphic up. And I had on the website a caption underneath there that said, I refuse to change this because they'll probably change it back. A couple days later, they changed it back, and then I just kept that up there for another couple of hours to be like, you see? Like, well, question number 1 that I want to put out to you guys. What was the match that you were looking forward to more? Undertaker Rusev or Undertaker Cena? Or Undertaker Jericho?
Go ahead, Cal.
Well, Jericho, because it's just a case of like with Undertaker Jericho, it's obviously the bigger match because there's bigger names involved, but it's also like it can be a non-canon thing because Jericho's in and out of WWE at the moment. Undertaker's not a consistent performer. So it's the idea of like you putting Rusev in there and, well, I'll put my thing out there right now. Rusev's going to lose this match.
Oh, we're all going to Rusev lose it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's a guarantee.
So, like, I mean, it's fine. It's like a big match for Rusev, but I don't see I think for some reason WWE have a huge problem of like, well, they've always had this problem of if it's not someone who they wanted to push in the first place and they're getting over, you've got to, in this case, literally bury him to try and like lessen that reaction.
They've really done a lot of effort to try to convince people to not cheer. Like they've been booking him as a heel and putting him up against like AJ Styles and stuff where they're just like, stop cheering him. He is a heel right now. And it's like, well, then stop selling fucking Rusev Day merchandise. You know what I mean?
We don't need the Rusev Day calendar, but you're selling it because it's getting over, even though you don't want it to.
Yeah, just turn him babyface. It's not that fucking difficult. He's not the type of character that you can't turn. And if he's over with the fucking crowd, what's the problem? I really don't understand it, because it doesn't seem like they're in a situation where they're like, yeah, but we really wanted to push Rusev, and we have this big, like, 7 feud arc that we've got coming up where Rusev is going to win the United States title, and he's going to be the one that is up against Daniel Bryan, and, like, anything that would be, like, determining factors of keeping him heel. He's not doing shit.
Well, it's just the point. The only reason they don't want to turn Rusev is because they don't want to turn Rusev. There's no logic behind it. They just don't want to turn Rusev babyface because they think he should be a heel. Even though, even throughout most of his entire heel run, he's been more popular than the babyface that he's been feuding with.
Yeah, it happened with John Cena. He was getting cheered over John Cena.
And Dolph Ziggler as well during that feud as well.
Just pretty much any time that Rusev goes out there, he's gotten into a point in his career where people just kind of like him and they sort of want him to be a babyface. And the company's like, nah, nope, not going to happen. We're going to have him go out there and get cheered as a heel if we need to, which is kind of the same situation as like the opposite of Roman Reigns, where it's like, we want this guy to be a babyface. Okay, well, he gets booed. Yeah, well, tough shit. Well, we want this guy to be a heel. Yeah, well, he gets cheered. Yeah, well, tough shit. And
they tried that feud too. Not last summer, but the summer before that. And
Rusev got cheered. And it was like, it's so weird because then you put him against The Undertaker. And Robert mentioned this earlier. We don't know how this crowd is going to react to everything. But it's The Undertaker. He's going to get cheered over Rusev. However, if Rusev is popular enough over there, the same as he is in most of the markets elsewhere, then why do you want to have Rusev Day chants going on against The Undertaker? It just sort of diminishes The Undertaker a little bit. Not that he,
everything they've done since 2015 has diminished The Undertaker. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, that's true. It's all been, you're old, you're broken, you can't win, and you're not a priority and stuff.
Yeah, go punch or kick Brock Lesnar in the dick.
Yeah, that's true. But it's still such a weird decision to make. And
like Callum, I actually thought Callum was going to say he won.
Oh, I guess we lost Rob.
Oh, dear. I was wondering what he was going to tell me that I said there for a second.
Well, now that we got Robert back, what was Callum going to say?
I thought Callum was going to say he wanted the Rusev match because we had a little bit of a debate with some of the other members of the site on who should have actually been in that match. I wanted Jericho because it fits this bizarre one-off show, and honestly, it's a better match than the Rusev match unless they want to do another John Cena style match where, okay, Taker's going to hit his signature spots and put Rusev in a casket and it's over in 5 minutes. And truth is, I don't even know. I couldn't even venture a prediction that far because this is just so bizarre. But I think it's telling enough that Jericho was like, yeah, they texted me telling me I was going to be in the Rumble. I said, sure. Then they texted me telling me I was going to fight Taker. I said, sure. Then they texted me like, oh, no, you're not. Sorry. And I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, it's such a weird show, but I think at least the Jericho Taker match would have left another iconic moment. Whereas the Rusev thing, as over as he is, and he is over, but I think it's largely just a yay, we get to chant Rusev Day thing. But bell to bell, I don't think if they put Rusev at the top of the card, people would be into it for all that long. It's kind of like Mahal, where Mahal got the push and Randy was champion and people were like, yeah, don't hinder Jinder and this is amazing and Jinder's actually getting a chance. And then the minute he won that belt, people were like, oh shit, we have to really do this.
Right.
I don't compare Rusev to Jinder Mahal. Rusev is twice the rest of the Jinder Mahal is, and is
not arguing with you there.
And he's organically over it. The Rusev Day thing is obviously a big chant, but he was over far before the Rusev Day stuff.
I get a little bit of a mix between things. Like I agree that if they tried to push Rusev as some top guy, it wouldn't work right now. But at the same time, I almost kind of think like, why not at least try? You know, it seems like the way that they're booking this is to try to, I guess this is a pun that I should go with, to put a final nail in the coffin of just like, do not cheer Rusev. Fuck you. Undertaker will squash him. He is not worthy of that kind of a response. We don't really like Rusev all that much. If you care about him, this is what we think. I think that that's how they're going about this, because there are a lot of rumors that Rusev might leave, and we don't know if Undertaker's going to have an actual match here. If he squashed John Cena for 2 minutes at WrestleMania, this could be a 45-second match, and he just beats the crap out of both Rusev and Aiden English, tombstones them both, tosses them both in a casket match, and that's the casket in the end of it. You know what I mean?
Would you be more into it if it was, let's say, a continuation from Mania and it was a Cena match?
I don't think you should do the Cena Undertaker match like straight away after the last one.
I don't know.
But maybe John wants to go away for a while, and you could put him in a casket and send him off. One of the weird things here is Rusev, there's a good chance, might get squashed by Taker, thrown in a casket, and have to appear on Tuesday. That would have been another benefit of the Jericho match.
Mm-hmm.
You put Jericho in a casket, send him off to Fozzy. By the way, let me take that back. There's a good chance Rusev might get thrown in a casket and still have to come out and be in this 50-man Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah. I'm kind of assuming that that's going to happen.
You know how, like, it's just a weird match to do. If you wanted to do one-on-one Taker and Rusev, and then, Rusev just gets squashed in 2 minutes, it's not that big of a deal. Hey, John Cena, of all people, just went through the same thing. So they could have gotten away with it, maybe.
I'm just assuming that this is a squash. And for people that are really into Rusev, don't get your hopes up for anything. I think that they're almost actively trying to crap on him in this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's being said from the perspective of somebody who is a huge Undertaker fan, second favorite of all time. Obviously, I want him to win this. Obviously, I love the idea that Undertaker is going to wrestle, and that I love that there's a casket match, but this whole thing just doesn't make any sense to me.
So I think it'll be like signature spots. Maybe we get a Snake Eyes. Rusev ducks the boot. Machka kick. Yeah, Rusev Day. Sit up. Gets destroyed. Thrown in the casket. And we're moving on.
Or forgetting Aiden English tries to interfere, gets a choke slam out of it.
Right. I keep forgetting Aiden English will be probably getting thrown in the same casket.
And then shows up later on and he's somehow got more hair. The opposite of WrestleMania.
He's going to be buried on top of Rusev, so Rusev's chest hair is just going to fall off onto Aiden English's head.
Although I'm looking forward to the Greatest Royal Rumble entrance of Rusev, where the Casket's just wheeling down the ramp towards the ring, and then he just jumps out.
But he has to jump out the way that he jumps on the stage, just that bah kind of thing.
And Tony, don't worry, this is all getting Taker warmed up for his October Chris Jericho Cruise Burial at Sea match.
Let's see what else we have here. The SmackDown Tag Team Championship is on the line. The Bludgeon Brothers are going to fight the Usos in their standard kind of rematch from WrestleMania, where Naomi is not going to be able to be ringside for this, so the Usos are going to get their asses kicked. All right?
Which, this is one time where, even though I'm sure they've been told, don't go there, don't bring it up, the Bludgeon Brothers would be well in their right if they had to cut a promo in saying, hey, Naomi can't be here, which means there's no distractions, you two are going to die.
Mm-hmm. I just think that they don't want to call attention to the fact that the women aren't going to be there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. I definitely want to talk about that, but I'm assuming everybody's going the Usos lose here, right?
Yeah, Bludgeon Brothers win, yeah.
Yeah, this is the match that I think, other than the Cruiserweight match, has the least interest to it and is just the easiest bathroom break.
I was going to say, did they, because I know they won the rights to fight for the championship in a number one contenders match with the New Day, but wasn't that for a Backlash match, not for this match?
No, that one was specifically for this one.
Oh,
the Backlash match was
the Orton one.
I think Randy fought Bobby Roode, right?
Yeah, I was just making sure because we might just see the same match again at Backlash, but I'm starting to think that we're not going to see the SmackDown Tag Team Championships at all at Backlash.
I'm starting to think that too. They've got how many matches are on the card already? There's
5, I think.
Big Cass and Daniel Bryan. Technically Rollins, Miz. Technically Orton versus blank, even though that's not really listed. Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, the 2 women's titles. So we got 6 matches right now. And that's not even including Raw tag team titles, potential of a SmackDown tag team titles, potential of the United States. Oh, the United States would be either Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, or another Brock Lesnar match, but we'll talk about that.
I think you mean Universal.
Oh yeah, Universal. I'm assuming we're getting a WWE championship match, so we're already talking like 8-9 matches, and that's not even including Braun Strowman. It's not including the Cruiserweight match, if there is one.
Pre-show.
So SmackDown tag titles are going to get the shaft, I think. And they're really going to be in a bad situation for this. Like, this is one of their 2 main bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
Which sucks, because they were the obligatory bathroom break at WrestleMania as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, tag teams. Vince doesn't like tag teams.
I'm just hoping this is a little bit longer, at least, than the WrestleMania one. Because that one was kind of just a blink and you miss it type thing.
I don't know. I don't know if I really want it to be longer or not. I was really disappointed with that. And I don't know if it was just a matter of the timing or if it's just that maybe the Usos and the Bludgeon Brothers don't work all that well together. Maybe
after the Usos and Half a Row and stuff from like a few years ago.
Yeah, they did great. They did great together. I think it was a matter of the card they were on, where they were on the card, and just sheer time constraints. Do the same match, the same 3-way at Backlash or Extreme Rules, you probably have the match of the night.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they were in the death spot of following the Rousey match, so they were not going to get any reaction no matter what they did, really.
Well, I don't think they're going to get much of a reaction here. I think that this is going to be a straightforward Bludgeon Brothers are in control the whole time. They win. Move on to the next segment type of thing. But without Naomi being there, that means even more that the Usos are going to lose. And that brings up the whole idea with the women not being there at all. Because politics. Triple H has talked about it. He said, hey, look, I mean, you can't change the world in a day. That kind of thing.
Can I just reference the... Because obviously I know what you're talking about with the Triple H same thing. So I just want to reference a particular sentence that he said to the media. You can't dictate to a country or a religion about how they handle things. But having said that, WWE is at the forefront of a women's evolution in the world. What the fuck?
He didn't say that. You're kidding.
He did say that. Well, at least that's what it's got written as reported. I'm the fact that WWE states that they're the leaders of a women's revolution in professional wrestling is bullshit enough. Say that they're doing it in a worldwide scale. Because obviously there was no such thing as women's athletes in general. The women couldn't compete at the Olympics before WWE came around. They couldn't vote even before WWE started pushing their women's wrestlers. It's fucking hell. I know you've got a narrative to keep up, but
I wouldn't have even gone there because this just shatters their narrative. And I was gonna wait till the Lesnar match to talk about this, but the women are the only group in WWE right now that can kind of pound their chest and go, we're way better than anyone in this industry that's come before us. Well, you can't even go all the way with that because, not every country is as progressive. And if you want to move into certain countries like Saudi Arabia, they have to take the hit. And for them to say, hey, we're the leaders of the women's evolution in the world, that didn't stop your political mindset, didn't stop you from taking that big fat check from, Saudi Arabians to do this show and shows after. I just think bad statement. I would have completely stayed away from that.
I am not surprised at all.
No.
Because in WWE's mind, a lot of the times, if it didn't happen in WWE, it didn't happen. And I would not be shocked at all if you put everybody in a lie detector, and if lie detectors actually worked and stuff, if you said to them, do you really believe that you are at the forefront of the women's evolution in the world? And Vince McMahon was yes. And it would be yeah, they believe it. Because I think that they really look at this as yeah, there were knockouts that were having great matches in Impact, and Ring of Honor was doing their stuff and whatever, and this and that.
Shimmer and Shine were literally all female promotions, but whatever, sure.
I think that they look at that as yeah, but that's indie shit and nobody cares. Kind of it doesn't matter what Daniel Bryan did beforehand, it matters what he did in WWE. It doesn't matter who Tyler Black is, it matters who Seth Rollins is. Seth Rollins is the guy,
It it doesn't matter that basically our entire women's division for our most popular period in history was just women showing their tits at any opportunity.
Oh no, you can't. That they've erased from history, Callum.
Yeah.
Oh, that's old narrative. That's well, we don't talk about that because if you bring it up,
smart, sexy, and powerful. What do you mean? We never had them showing their breasts.
Real quick aside, I fucking hated that strong, sexy, or what was it? Strong, smart, and powerful, or whatever it was. Strong, sexy, and powerful.
Strong, sexy, or maybe it was smart, sexy, powerful. All I remember
smart, sexy, powerful. That's what it was. Because I remember thinking to myself, why are you going with powerful instead of strong? Strong, sexy, smart. That's what you should have gone with. It's the type of thing where it's just like, you got to be kidding me. Like nobody thought of this. That you just keep the alliteration of the S's going and all that. But then again, we're the same one that went with the what was it? The submission sorority or whatever, the fucking porn channel thing. But WWE having this mentality of like every time they talk about the women, it's historic and it's the best thing ever and whatever like that. And then they do the Saudi Arabia show. Part of me doesn't blame them because it's like, well, you know what? If this is a huge, huge money deal, then look, take it, make the money, and blame Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Kind of do the sort of thing where you're like, well, we're trying. And who knows, maybe next year the women will be able to compete, and repeatedly refer to Abu Dhabi as just like, you see, well, we did it there, like we could do it here, and like different things like that. I think that that's going to be what they deal with forward. But for now, I think that they're trying to keep that very hush-hush, and they're kind of just going like, well, you got a 50-man Royal Rumble, isn't this great? And yeah, that kind of sucks about the women. But don't talk about that. Let's talk about how John Cena is fighting Triple H, and like, because I think that they, and this is a callback to what I was mentioning earlier, I think that this is all a marketing thing, and it's nothing other than that. It's just a matter of, let's put our best foot forward of throwing everything out there that we possibly can, get a lot of attention for the Saudi Arabia show. That way, at the beginning of this deal, we don't look like we're losers. And if 2 years from now into the deal, maybe things aren't as prioritized, then maybe Saudi Arabia doesn't get a pay-per-view. Maybe Saudi Arabia gets house shows, and maybe it's just a live tour, and they just kind of do simpler bullshit, and, kind of not a priority. And I could see that being the case where they're just like, let's just get a big paycheck out of this, not focus as much on the women, and whatever. But I forget who it was. Somebody recently just said that they think that the women are getting paid for this.
That's interesting.
Well, at least there'd be some sort of conversation, but it just, I know it's hard to like just quantify this because obviously we don't know the exact money involved, we don't know the influence and other aspects of it. So, and at the end of the day, WWE is a corporation; they're there to make money for themselves, and so we can't blame them for wanting to go to certain lengths to do it. But I don't know. I've personally lost a lot of respect for WWE for going through with this.
Well, what would you guys think about this idea? If the idea is that they are paying them to sit at home and not be on this tour, versus what if they would have done something concurrently? Like, say, a couple weeks ago, they announced, look, the women are not able to compete at the Saudi Arabia show. However, if you are in the Chicago area or, the St. Louis area or whatever like that, we are putting on a special house show, all women. And we're going to have the celebration of women's wrestling, come out, have a lot of fun. We're going to have the Raw and the SmackDown Women's Championships are on the line. We're going to have a battle royal with all the women. We're going to have Absolution and the Riot Squad versus whatever. It's going to be a co-branded show. Raw and SmackDown women are going to fight each other, etc., etc. And try to make a big spectacle out of that to either run with this on Friday or on Saturday or Sunday or something like that. What do you guys think about that?
Run on the network as well, right?
No, not necessarily even on the network. But maybe.
Because I would do it because that's a great idea, but I would have it be a network special, obviously not the stupid length of
it would need to be a 2-hour show or something.
You put a 2-hour show where it's all women, and then you headline it, with Charlotte versus Trish, I think you made your point. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't that be a good sign of like, we understand this is a Saudi Arabia situation and we can't change the country, but we do want to celebrate the fact that
this revolution.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that would have been a better way of doing it, but it just goes to show that wasn't in the forefront of their minds.
Yeah,
it wasn't
they're not.
Because at the end of the day, they do the women's evolution stuff, not because they actually do believe in pushing women's equality and stuff like that. It's because it's a good marketing. It's good PR. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it's like most businesses operate like that. So I don't have a fault with WWE doing that. The fact that they're doing it is like, at the end of the day, the ends justify the means. Like the fact they're doing it for PR or whatever, if it is actually getting like making women's wrestlers more like a featured part of the shows, then at the end of the day, I'm not, like, me as a fan of women's wrestling is not losing out from that situation, whether they're doing it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. But in this sort of situation where they had plenty of time, like they knew they were doing the Saudi Arabia show, they could have arranged like a big women's event at the weekend or something along those lines at a particular show. It didn't have to be televised. It would have been good if it was on the network, but it doesn't have to be. Just if they made some sort of show that, okay, so the women can't be on this show, but we've created a whole show which is just women's matches, and we're going to have Ronda Rousey on it and all this other great stuff.
Right.
The fact they didn't do it is, first of all, a wasted opportunity in terms of like the extra money they could have pulled out for that sort of stuff. But it's also, it just shows that like they were willing to go back on something that they've been pushing for years at this point, like since 2015, the women's evolution, or women's revolution, or whatever you wanted to call it back then. Like they're willing to go like compromise that standing to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously a lot of companies do that, so it's not like, but the fact that it's so open for people to see in this scenario, whether they want to subvert it or not, the fact that it's so clear for wrestling fans to see, and most of them won't care, but the ones that do care will lose an aspect of respect for WWE in terms of, well, I know you talk about how great like you think the women's division is and stuff like that, and we believe the women's wrestlers are really good and we like some of their characters and we want to get behind them, but if you're willing to just like sell your soul essentially for $1, it just like why should I get behind it? Because you clearly value money over your women.
I'm really curious. Yeah, we mentioned this before. I'm really curious if they show video packages that include the women, and if they sell the merchandise for the women, and different things like that. I'm really going to be paying attention to that.
Yeah. I don't, and also I don't believe. I believe WWE want things to change so they can bring the women onto the show. They want Saudi Arabia, but they can't realistically believe that they'll be the motivators for that change.
Well, they're at the forefront of the world. I mean, anybody
say whether they believe it or not, they're gonna say that.
Yeah, I know. Like if women's rights do come into Saudi Arabia in like 2 or 3 years' times, whatever, they're just like, see what we did, even if it was completely just influenced by like the UN or something along those lines. No, it was WWE. WWE decided that we brought this show with no women on it, but like we alluded to the women every now and again, and so now women are free in Saudi Arabia and they can do what they like. It's all because of us.
Guaranteed.
Uh-huh.
Let's move on to another thing here. John Cena versus Triple H. This is happening for some fucking reason. There's absolutely no feud for it. They have not alluded to it at all on television. John Cena and Triple H haven't interacted with each other in God knows how long.
8 years, I believe they said.
John Cena's a free agent, so he's not even like part of Raw. It's just happening. Do you guys like that? Or is that something that bugs you, that they're just kind of, hey, here's 2 legends, have them fight?
I've always been an advocate of like, I don't like it when legends come back and they just either squash or beat a superstar that you're trying to build up, but they still have a lot of value to them, and whether it is putting other superstars over or being involved in like big feuds or storylines. And then when you put them together in this sort of card, and it's just like, oh, it's just 2 people that aren't really in the grand narrative that you're doing in WWE. You just want to put them together because they're big names and it's good to see them wrestle. Then I'm completely and totally fine with it. Like, it doesn't hurt either one of them to lose that match. It would just be it's 2 big names that's going to attract a lot of attention. It's two people that, like, fans of Saudi Arabia, even if they have like just a passing knowledge of wrestling, will know and have heard of. And I think I'm not looking forward to the match just because I don't like. The last John Cena match I remember liking was his match with AJ Styles at Royal Rumble, which is obviously a great match. Like,
well, to be fair, he hasn't done anything relevant since.
Yeah, true. That is 100% true. But it's like, I'm wondering whether he's running out of steam in terms of his actual just in-ring ability.
I think they're trying, for whatever stupid reason, to create that narrative that he's, slowing down and running out of steam, even though they have no problem saying The Undertaker looks better than ever. But I like this match. This was one of my childhood favorite feuds. So, the 12-year-old in me is very excited for this match. I'm going to shut my brain off to the fact that here's Triple H, who got beat up by Ronda Rousey, and here's Cena, who got squashed in 2 minutes by Taker. And I hope that they don't try to put on a 20-minute match, but 15 minutes with some, classic spots, and I'll really enjoy this match.
I kind of just don't care.
I think Triple H wins, by the way.
I'm going John Cena.
Yeah, I'm going Cena as well.
I'm thinking that squash with The Undertaker is going to be undone with a Cena win a little bit.
And I don't think it'll be undone.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be undone, but Cena at least has... I mean, Triple H is like a 1 or 2 time former a year type thing. At least Cena, when he does come back, he has a little bit of a run every now and again. So he's at least more valuable for a long-term thing than Triple H is.
It'll be interesting to see who gets cheered here.
I think we'll have a 50-50.
I'm thinking so too.
Yeah.
I think Triple H wins because at the end of the day, I think he'll be more in the eye for WWE. He'll be more in the public eye. I don't know if John is going to be on TV even more than a Triple H, unless he's, gearing up for a major run. I just don't see it. I think there's a possibility that Triple H could come back and feud with, Roman Reigns again or Kurt Angle again before John Cena comes back and does anything of substance. That's the mindset they have me going in with John right now.
Well, I'm just going by the mindset of I can only see one of them being world champion by this time next year.
That's true.
Plus, I think that Triple H was going into this going, look, I think I should perform here. And maybe it was him, maybe it was Stephanie, maybe it was Vince, maybe all three.
Stephanie can't make decisions here. She's a woman.
Well, maybe they kind of had the mentality of like, well, Triple H probably is a big enough name that he shouldn't be just in the Royal Rumble itself. How about we have you in a singles match? And then they were like, well, who do we pair him up with? And they didn't really want to have him fight anybody necessarily that was on the regular roster. So they said, well, we should put a John Cena match on the card too. And then they said, hey, John Cena versus Triple H was an old WrestleMania type of thing. Let's just do that. And that'll appeal to the people that were watching around that era. And it's legend versus legend, big marquee names. They haven't seen it in a couple years. Let's just do that. And I could see that being the scenario where they booked that afterward. And then they go, well, who should win? And then Triple H probably was just like, I don't need to fucking win. So that's why I'm going John Cena.
Well, that's another thing. Triple H is very selfless at this point in his career.
He did beat Jinder Mahal though.
Yeah, it's like the idea of like Triple H saying, "Oh yeah, I don't need to win this match, but I want to win this match."
I don't need to win this match. Okay, well then John Cena. Whoa. I said I don't need to win this match. I didn't say I'm going to lose the match. I'm still gonna fucking win it. Like,
it's the idea. There's like, I love what Triple H is doing with NXT, and I do believe that he is trying to push younger talent and stuff like that. But there's a completely different mindset between Triple H the performer and Triple H the businessman.
That'd be great if they were like talking to him in this conference room, and he's like, "Listen, I don't need to win this match," and then he just starts sending out a text message of ... and they're like, "Is he not done talking?" And then he goes, "In 2 minutes." Give me 5 minutes, I'll be John Cena.
No, but I'm quite interested, like, because it might be like wearing his suit and stuff like that, saying, "Yeah, I don't need to win this match; it'll be fine," and stuff like that. And then he immediately puts the trunks on and says, "Hang on, I've got to win this match immediately." It's like he changes outfit. And
John at Survivor Series.
Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle pinned John Cena at Survivor Series? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, even more of the reason why I really think John can lose here very easily.
Oh, he certainly can.
Yeah, it's kind of a 50-50 shot, and it doesn't matter. So this is just one of those things where it's like, if you were really, really, really into WWE in 2005, 2006, 2007, whatever the range is, you're probably looking at this and going, "Oh my god, this is awesome! This is kind of like my version of John Cena or Undertaker versus Triple H, or Undertaker versus HBK, or HBK versus so and so." Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like different eras. 10 years ago, this was the match. At this point, it's a random extra spectacle match. Nothing's on the line. Neither of these guys are going to be wrestling a Backlash. So fuck it. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. Here's something to ponder. I'm going to combine these two together. You got the Intercontinental Championship ladder match. Seth Rollins is going in with the Intercontinental title. He's fighting Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw and two people on SmackDown, Samoa Joe and The Miz. The United States title's on the line. Jeff Hardy defending against Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal's on Monday Night Raw now. Jeff Hardy is on SmackDown. If you didn't follow all this kind of stuff, here's a quick rundown. Jinder Mahal takes the title at WrestleMania, moves it over to Monday Night Raw, immediately loses it to Jeff Hardy, who moves over to SmackDown, rendering the Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton Backlash match not an actual match. Even though Randy Orton was supposed to get an actual rematch, he actually had to have a match to determine whether he would get his rematch. And then he didn't get the match because Jinder Mahal is going to have a rematch against Jeff Hardy here, which if Jeff Hardy loses the title, then the United States title goes back over to Monday Night Raw, dictating that either the Randy Orton Jinder Mahal match does happen at Backlash and Randy Orton then wins the title back to bring it over to SmackDown, or the Intercontinental Championship moves over to SmackDown in retaliation of the United States title going back to that, wherein the Intercontinental Championship would either need to change hands here for either Seth Rollins losing to Samoa Joe or The Miz, and then The Miz match against Seth Rollins to be The Miz and Seth Rollins not for the Intercontinental Championship at Backlash if Samoa Joe were to win, but for just the hell of it, which would render that pointless, but then that would bring Samoa Joe to carry the Intercontinental Championship into the match against Roman Reigns, who may or may not have the Universal Championship, depending on that scenario, or The Miz and Seth Rollins continues at Backlash, and either The Miz defends the Intercontinental Championship successfully against him there, or loses it back in the case that the United States title doesn't switch hands, or Seth Rollins retains the title here and then drops it to The Miz at Backlash. All this boils down to...
Oh, well, I'll tell you.
The mid-card titles need to figure something out.
Who's the one name you didn't mention there, Tony?
Finn Balor.
Yeah, Finn Balor is rendered useless right now, which is really terrible. But even Joe's promo last night on SmackDown, he was like, "Seth, if you get in my way, it's the end of Seth Rollins. Miz, if you get in my way, it's the end of the Miz. Either way, it's the end of Finn Balor." I was like, Jesus Christ. They are just really running down Finn Balor.
Well, here's the other thing. Finn Balor could win this, and they can keep the Intercontinental title on Raw.
And then
unless the Finn Balor match then becomes Finn Balor against The Miz at Backlash, which then determines... Everything is completely determining upon the other one. And whatever match happens first here is going to be the best indicator of what's going forward. If, for instance, the United States Championship match ends with Jeff Hardy retaining the title, then we're getting Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton at Backlash, which seems to be the easiest call here. And the Intercontinental Championship is staying on Monday Night Raw. Seth Rollins is going to retain here unless Finn Balor wins. And then they get Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins at Backlash, and not The Miz. They could still do The Miz versus Seth Rollins, but then The Miz just loses that match too. They already took off that Randy Orton United States title match from the official card of Backlash, but they still keep The Miz versus Seth Rollins up there. Seth Rollins won that Intercontinental Championship long enough ago that he can lose it right now and it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. And if he were to lose it, you would think he would lose it to The Miz, because The Miz is intrinsically tied to this title right now. And no matter what, by the end of Backlash, we need to have a mid-card title on both shows. We can't have both on the same one. But there's no Raw, SmackDown type of determining factor to keep one of these titles on either of those shows. So they could go in whatever crazy fucking determining factors they want to go. Jeff Hardy or Jinder Mahal or Randy Orton on Raw or SmackDown could hold the United States title. And Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, The Miz, or Samoa Joe could hold the Intercontinental title on Raw or SmackDown. It's crazy. But I'm going to go here with the simple options. I'm thinking Jeff Hardy and Seth Rollins both just retain.
That was quite a very straightforward and simple way of going through all that convoluted stuff you were talking about earlier.
That's the way that WWE's booked this. It's the type of thing where I'm going with a simple route because to me, that makes the most sense. And even though it's unfortunate that The Miz doesn't get the Intercontinental title in that scenario, why would you, in that case, do the Jinder Mahal Jeff Hardy switch to begin with? Why wouldn't you have just... You move Jinder Mahal over to Monday Night Raw. He's got the United States title, but he's got a match against Randy Orton. And then at the Greatest Royal Rumble, you have Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton. Randy Orton wins the title back and brings it back to SmackDown. That would have made more sense to me even. Or if you wanted to get the Intercontinental title on SmackDown with The Miz, Jinder Mahal brings the United States title over to Monday Night Raw during the Superstar Shakeup. The Miz wins the Intercontinental title at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And Jinder Mahal fights whoever the fuck, maybe Randy Orton, and retains. And that's the end of it. You know what I mean? They could have gone simpler. So it would not surprise me at all if they do have 3 or 4 more title swaps and we get the Intercontinental title with The Miz on SmackDown and either Jinder Mahal or somebody else holding the United States title on Monday Night Raw. Would not surprise me at all.
So I think I'm going to go with a little more title changes, but still staying on the simpler route. Miz and Mahal win here because of the way they've been doing Randy and Jeff Hardy's semi thing on SmackDown, and they had Sunil Singh mess with Randy Orton on SmackDown. We get a 3-way there, which Jeff Hardy will take the U.S. title to SmackDown, and then Seth Rollins can defeat The Miz at Backlash, maybe with the help of Daniel Bryan, who was screwed out of his match with Big Cass by The Miz earlier in the night.
I'm just... you go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just going with the same with you, Tony. It's the simplest way of doing things is to just have Jeff Hardy win this match, kick Jinder Mahal out of the United States Championship picture entirely, because they seem to be doing stuff with Randy Orton, and also Shelton Benjamin seems to be getting into the United States title picture as well now, because he obviously beat Randy Orton in the most recent show. And then you have Seth Rollins retain. He then beats The Miz for it on at Backlash, maybe with some Daniel Bryan interference or something like that. But at the end of the day, I think Rollins deserves to be holding a mid-card title and being especially if Lesnar is to keep holding the United States Championship, you need to have one of your top guys holding. Universal, yeah. God, it's everyone saying that stuff at the moment. The Universal Championship. If Brock Lesnar's still Universal Champion, then you need to have one of your top guys, one of your big workhorses to hold the Intercontinental Championship and make it as prestigious as possible. And I think after having so long as The Miz being kind of not so much he is a chicken shit champion, and so having somebody who's basically the opposite of The Miz who'll just fight every night, and he'll fight for an hour if he needs to, and he'll fight like 5 guys in one night if he has to. I think that's a better thing for the Intercontinental Championship at the moment than just giving it to The Miz. And then you have Jeff Hardy as the United States Champion on SmackDown, who's like still wildly popular at like this stage of the game, and can be like a good steadying factor for the United States Championship, which has suffered so much in the past year. It needs to have some stability. It needs to have one person hold it for at least a couple of months.
We've had more United States champions since January than we've had Universal champions ever.
I know, it's
because we've only had Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Goldberg, Brock Lesnar. They're the only Universal champions. Yet we've had Bobby Roode, Randy Orton, Jinder Mahal, Jeff Hardy, and I think technically Dolph Ziggler was still in January, right? So that's 5.
Yeah.
We've had 5, and then if you count right before Dolph Ziggler was Baron Corbin, so we've had, in the past couple of months, in 5 months time span, we've had 6 United States champions and the same Universal champion, and only 4 total Universal champions, so that's just, it's haywire, it's crazy, it's frantic, and at least
but I think they're going to
the ladder match is going to be fun.
I think they're going to play off of that going into Backlash. With, oh my God, the titles have changed hands again. Now we have to watch Backlash to see where everything is really going to end up, you know?
I could see that being the case. Like, I really don't know where they're going to go with this. It could go in any number of fashions. Every single person here could win any of those titles. They could even put it on Samoa Joe, even though I think the 2 least likely options out of these 2 matches are Finn Balor and Samoa Joe winning.
Yeah.
I'm going, it's either Rollins or Miz, and it's either, obviously, Hardy or Mahal, because they're the only 2 people in that match, but it could go any way. That's what's so weird about it.
I'm just like, I know it's probably just too much to expect, like, after WWE convoluted this card and everything else in the past few weeks, but surely they would, if they have an opportunity to just do the simple thing, and nobody would bat an eyelid if they just said, okay, Jeff Hardy wins, he keeps the title on SmackDown, and Seth Rollins wins, he keeps the title on Raw, and then we just continue from there. Like, if they had their opportunity to do one thing that's just completely straightforward and no one would care that it's like the easy way of doing things, they wouldn't just take it.
Well, they could, but they still have to get through Backlash, where the matches are going to be interpromotional anyway.
Well, it would be the case of like the Randy Orton Jeff Hardy match would be a SmackDown thing, so that doesn't matter. And the only loose end that would need to be tied up is you need to have Seth Rollins beat The Miz again, which you can easily do. Like you could envision a scenario where you have the Big Cass Daniel Bryan match. Daniel Bryan gets distracted by The Miz, and Big Cass beats him, and then you do thing later in the night of Daniel Bryan costing The Miz the Intercontinental Championship, and then you've got that feud sorted out.
That's exactly the way I see it, but with The Miz as champion. And The Miz can win here because it's a ladder match. So you don't have to beat Samoa Joe, who's on a roll right now, promo-wise. You don't have to beat Rollins, who's proven to be a workhorse. And you don't have to beat Balor again, you know?
I just don't see why you just need to sully Seth Rollins' title reign by having him have 2 championship reigns when one's fine.
They've never cared. Look at what they did with putting the title on John, to put it on Wyatt, to put it on... You know what I mean?
Yeah, they swap those things if they think that that's going to be good for that week. And the way that they've been rearranging this card around, shit, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And this is something that it's an interesting thing to bring up. The Raw Tag Team Championship match is literally Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt on Monday Night Raw, and The Bar are on SmackDown. And they put a stupid segment on SmackDown this week saying if The Bar wins, they're going to go back to Monday Night Raw. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they have SmackDown people win the Raw Tag Team Championship just for the sake of being like, you see, you thought that it was a guarantee that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt would win. Well, fuck you. The Bar win, and then they drop it at Backlash. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute, what? So if The Bar wins, they're back on Raw?
Well, see, this is the weird thing. If The Bar wins, they are claiming on that promo that they go back to Monday Night Raw. However, it would make sense that if The Bar were to win, that they were in a scenario where they would take the Raw Tag Team Championship to SmackDown, which doesn't make any sense. So,
well, I'd go along the lines of like, why would, well, Paige in this instance, like if you're going in a storyline perspective, why would she trade for the bar if she knows that there's a chance that they could win the Raw Tag Team Championship because that match had already been booked, and that if they win it, they go back to Raw, so she's out of a trade essentially.
It's the same thing with Kurt Angle and the United States title.
Yeah, no.
You know, none of it makes any sense like that. And it's a twofold thing. It's the option number one, they just go with Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt win because they're on Monday Night Raw. There's no question about it. That's just how things work, and that's, whatever. And potentially, maybe the tag titles aren't defended at Backlash, so you don't have to even worry about who to feud with next. It's just 1 week. You know what I mean?
Right.
They can pick up after that where they left off, and they've got the Authors of Pain, they've got Ziggler and McIntyre, they have the Revival, and what else are they? What are other
Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn?
Kevin Owens, Sami
Zayn, the Titus Worldwide,
Ascension.
The Ascension.
Ascension are kind of heels.
The
Breezango and Titus Worldwide are in there and stuff, but I think that the best way to do it is that, but with Backlash being just a week afterward, they could very easily just say, let's put it on the bar to make everybody go, whoa, what the hell? The SmackDown team has the Raw Tag Team titles? And then they do a rematch and Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt win it at Backlash. They could very easily do that.
Okay. I'll go one step further. They could easily put it on the bar, and then the New Day comes out and they're like, we want those titles, and then the New Day wins, and the New Day somehow ends up on Raw. Because we don't know what's going on.
Or they could do, and this is the stupidest thing in the world if they do it, the bar wins, and then we get the bar defending the Raw Tag Team Championship at Backlash against the New Day.
But then with the stipulation of the winning team has to go to Raw, I guess.
Maybe even not. You never really know.
I think, again, in this situation, it's like maybe just too boring to say something like that, but just go with the simple solution.
Absolutely.
Don't overcomplicate things even further than you have to, just for the sake of getting like, oh, they get to see like a bizarre tag team champions that are a SmackDown and Raw, but you're going to lose it on Backlash anyway. Like, there's no point just complicating that stuff.
They really need to go with just Hardy and Wyatt.
And and it's the idea of like the Hardy Wyatt thing is like working. I mean, I'm not saying it's the greatest thing in the world, but it's definitely given some emphasis back to the Wyatt character that was on life support essentially. So just run with it. You've got it. I'm not saying they should be tag team champions for like half a year or whatever, but they're working at the moment. So just give them the championship and let them go with it.
I wouldn't be surprised if they put it on the bar just to get a Backlash match out of it with Hardy and Wyatt.
The fact that there's enough matches already on the Backlash card and we still have room for a WWE title match, a potential Universal title match, a Cruiserweight title match, so on and so forth, makes me think that it's just going to go to Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, and the Raw tag titles aren't going to be defended.
Yeah, I think they'll skip. They'll skip both tag titles that show.
Let's please be simple here. Hardy and Wyatt win.
Although if this is one of those events, man, where if they go, hey, let's have the Intercontinental go crazy and the United States go crazy and the Raw tag go crazy, and they could do that kind of a thing here just to be like, wow, didn't we have a great show? We had all these fucking title changes and whatever. And then Backlash, they do that, and then post Backlash becomes, all right, now we're done fucking around. Now let's get into the next couple of months of just bland,
By the way, after talking to you guys so far, I'm really ready for the end of Backlash, so we can just go back to some semblance of order.
Me too.
But doesn't it piss anybody off that going into Mania, they're doing this thing with Braun Strowman, where it's like, he needs a tag partner. And then he picks a 10-year-old kid. And then the next 2 weeks after Mania, you have him paired with Lashley?
Yeah, he was.
That would have been good. That would have been really good if he was like tag team. Him and Lashley's tag champions would have been pretty cool.
Like, the caption on Raw even said, who's going to stop this team of Lashley and Strowman? Well, if this was the plan, why didn't you fucking do it at Mania? Like,
I don't know.
Because the 10-year-old needed a push.
Because we're making moments, damn it.
It's not about the wrestling, it's about the moment. We make movies.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking WrestleMania and booking things, and why didn't you just do this at WrestleMania and stuff? What if the whole thing here with the WWE Championship match was they realized that Shinsuke Nakamura is not as popular as AJ Styles, and if he would have beaten AJ Styles for the title at WrestleMania with both of them being baby faces, that he probably would have gotten booed. So maybe they went a week ahead of time, 2 days ahead of time, 2 months ahead of time, whatever the case may be, when they knew that this greatest Royal Rumble event was coming up. Maybe even they just said, maybe we'll do this at Backlash even. But they could have looked at the situation and gone, how about we have Nakamura lose, and then he turns heel, and then he wins the title. That way, when he gets the win over AJ Styles and people boo, they're booing a guy that we want them to boo.
I don't think that it was a situation, especially at Mania, where AJ Styles was grossly more popular than Shinsuke. I do think that the whole build of Mania being this is a dream match and it's a wrestling match, they realize somewhere that that's stupid, and you're going to see an exponentially better match because there's actual heat here. Am I the only one that feels that way?
No, you're 100% right. There's an actual rivalry now between these two. It was, I mean, the respect idea can work to an extent, but like we said, building up to WrestleMania, you already had a respect feud that was for the SmackDown Women's Championship, which arguably had a bit more like excitement surrounding it. Well, it had excitement around it because it had Asuka's streak on the line as well. Whereas this one, like, it was just based around the fact of, hey, these two fought in New Japan before. We'll probably see the same match again. And then we didn't, because at the end, the thing about the match at New Japan was that they were two heads of like rival factions. They had an element of respect for each other's ability, but they didn't like each other. Whereas this one, they were two buddy essentially going into and it lost a lot of steam going into it. Whereas now with Shinsuke heel, and he's a really, really good heel, like that sorry, no speak English stuff is like, unfortunately, that stuff is too funny and it's going to get over as a babyface, and he's actually probably going to get more popular because of that stuff than he would have done staying as a babyface. But I think making him a heel was just going to add a lot more emphasis to this match and make it more of a brawl than a very technical, this is a very pleasant wrestling match. No, we're going to actually beat the shit out of each other and try and not just take the other person's title, but leave him laying out in the process.
I'm 10 times more excited for this match than I was for their match at WrestleMania. And I would argue it's almost like this match and the Roman Lesnar match have swapped, where going into Mania, it was like, yeah, Roman and Lesnar at least have a rivalry. Here, I kind of feel like I really want to see AJ and Shinsuke because they have a good rivalry going, and I don't know why the other match is happening.
Well, I am kind of on the fence. I don't know if this is going to be a better match, but it could be. Or it could be the same match, with the only difference being Nakamura is slightly more feverish, I guess, you could say. He's just kind of has a slightly different edge to him, but I don't know. I'm leaning more towards Nakamura takes the title here.
Yep. I think, first of all, with the aggression they showed in the 6-man last night, it's going to be a much more aggressive match, and definitely Nakamura wins the title.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards Nakamura because you have the instant rematch that you can do at Backlash, so you don't have to do a lot of build towards it because that's just the obvious match you do for the WWE Championship. Whereas if you have AJ Styles win, unless you have Nakamura beat him up afterwards again, you don't really have the rematch, and you don't have an inbuilt. you can't really build a challenger up in a week to beat, unless it's Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan's already got a match at Backlash anyway. So what are you going to do? You're going to stick Rusev in there after he gets squashed by the Undertaker?
I think you get a really good trilogy out of them, and then obviously at the end of Backlash, title has to go to AJ because there's more of a heel variety on SmackDown right now. But this Nakamura thing is going to raise his stock so much, and I'm really looking forward to his next year.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that the title switches back at Backlash. I think that they could go with Nakamura holding it and dropping it to Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I think SummerSlam.
But do you just go with 2 more matches with AJ? I mean, how do you get there?
You have the match at Backlash where like AJ's close to winning, but maybe Nakamura does the low blow to win by DQ.
Then you go to Extreme Rules.
Yeah, and that's no rules, obviously.
Let's see what I'm trying to bring up the pay-per-view schedule right now. We've got Backlash coming up, and then we have Extreme Rules, and then Money in the Bank, right?
Yeah.
So after that, wait a minute, do I have that?
I was gonna say like after you have.
I know Money in the Bank comes first, before Extreme Rules.
What?
I wouldn't say it can't be that.
I have that listed down.
They don't have Money in the Bank in May, do they?
No, they have it in June
or June. Because Backlash is like right at the start of May. I would have thought they wouldn't have.
I've got in my calendar. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I've got Money in the Bank coming. I've got Backlash.
I've got Money in the Bank coming first.
Yeah, Backlash is May 6th, and then it was going to be Payback on May 27th. But they got rid of that. So then it becomes NXT TakeOver and then Money in the Bank in June. And then Extreme Rules coming up on July 15th. So we have Money in the Bank ahead of time. And then we have Extreme Rules. And then we have SummerSlam. Now, if Shinsuke Nakamura fights AJ Styles at Backlash as their third in a row kind of a thing, I don't think that they can necessarily do another match at Money in the Bank. And especially not at Extreme Rules. But maybe he fights somebody else for those 2 events, and then he fights Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam. Maybe it's like Shinsuke Nakamura versus Randy Orton at Money in the Bank and Extreme Rules. Or maybe it's Nakamura versus John Cena for one of them. Or maybe, and this sounds really dumb.
Jeff Hardy in a ladder match Extreme Rules would be the only way that I could go with that.
Well, maybe this is not the best call in the world and something that I wouldn't like to see, but maybe Money in the Bank doesn't have a WWE Championship match on it. Maybe they've got like the Universal titles on the line, and we've got the Money in the Bank ladder match, and there's kind of some ways around it. But if you look at the SmackDown roster right now, there aren't a whole lot of options for who you keep going on with in the world title picture as far as baby faces go. It's Daniel Bryan is number 2 right behind AJ Styles. Other than that, Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, they're in the United States title thing. You're not going to push Ty Dillinger that far. Shit, maybe they actually turn Rusev.
They might have to at that point.
Maybe we get Rusev fighting at Money in the Bank for the title.
I think the most sense what makes the most sense to me is that you have Shinsuke win it here. He defends it against Styles for the next 2 pay-per-views. Like you have the Backlash one, even though it's kind of like a trilogy, it ends with like the non-finish, as it were. We have Nakamura just hit him in the nuts and escape with the title. And then you have their like real rematch at Money in the Bank. And then at the Extreme Rules, you have him face either Jeff Hardy or Randy Orton, whichever one doesn't have the United States Championship at the time or isn't fighting for the US title. And then move on to Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam.
Well,
and then you start the arcs with either a Daniel Bryan Miz feud or a Daniel Bryan Samoa Joe feud.
In that scenario, I think if they end up going with the match of Money in the Bank for a blow-off, they'll end up doing like an Iron Man. Because they'll put those 2 guys in that match. Let me just say personally, I'm really sad because I thought after Backlash, we were going to get some, normalcy, and now we have another show with cross-branded matches in Money in the Bank. So, yeah, so much for that wish, but going back to the original thing, this match is going to be way better than WrestleMania, I think, and Nakamura wins it here.
Yeah, I'm going Nakamura as well. I don't want it to happen, but I think it's going to.
I'll go Nakamura, and I'm looking forward to him being champion for a while, especially as a heel.
I just want Samoa Joe as champ.
I want him as well, but I think that's like... I'm still in my mindset thinking the WrestleMania next year WWE Championship is Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe.
Oof.
So I'll wait for that point.
It is the New York market. They'd be all over that.
Yeah.
Well, we got the United States. God damn it! I called it the United States again. The Universal Championship.
It's the Universal title, guys. It's the big red belt.
The steel cage match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. And if you can hear in the background, there is somebody doing a lot of yard work outside. That's not anything to deal with the steel cage. Then it would just be boom, dum, 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 dum.
That's probably what I'll be doing during this match. So
yard work.
Yeah, don't have to watch this one again.
And I am not interested in this at all. This is one of those cases where I really just do not give a shit, no matter what happens, because they spent an entire year building up this Roman Reigns thing, which I didn't give a shit about. And then the big payoff was, you thought that Roman Reigns was going to win the title, but nah, fuck you. We're going to do this again at Greatest Royal Rumble. Whether Brock Lesnar wins or he doesn't win, this is a very, very important match. Let's put it this way. If Lesnar wins, we know he's sticking around at least for a little while. Maybe until SummerSlam. Maybe even longer than that. If Lesnar loses, that's a good indicator that he's done. If Reigns wins, it's back to the status quo. This doesn't change shit. If Reigns loses, who's to say he doesn't just get another fucking match at Money in the Bank? You know? It's really bothersome. And part of me is really looking down on this already and making some assumptions ahead of time that maybe they didn't put the title on him at WrestleMania because they knew that people would boo. And if this is a case where Saudi Arabia is going to treat Roman Reigns better, what if they looked at this and they said the same kind of situation as what I was saying with the Nakamura thing? What if they said, how about we do a swerve? WrestleMania doesn't end the way that people think it's going to end, because we know that we've got the Greatest Royal Rumble coming up and we can put the title on Reigns there. Then he gets cheered and everybody kind of acts like it's the culmination of something, and he actually was able to do what we said that he was able to do. And then when somebody in the meeting goes, yeah, but what about Monday night afterward, when he goes back to being just booed again, and then they go, fuck you, that doesn't happen. You know, like...
I just thought even of that little comic book strip meme where the guy suggests something in the meeting and he gets thrown out the window.
Yeah, like, I got a feeling that might be the case here. Like, they are both smart enough and dumb enough to be in a situation where they would think that this would change everything. Like, they were smart enough to think ahead of time that maybe Saudi Arabia treats Roman Reigns better and that they can do some kind of, like, preventative booking and stuff like that. But at the same time, they are clearly stubborn enough to believe that a positive reaction for Roman Reigns here, they could think like, well, if he gets cheered in Saudi Arabia, then everybody by Monday night, they're going to realize that they should cheer him. And it's not going to work. So you either end this with Roman Reigns winning the title and people going, I guess that means Brock's done, and booing Roman Reigns the way that they've been booing him, or you end this with Brock Lesnar retaining the title and people going, well, you better not fucking push Roman Reigns anymore because he's lost 4 times to Brock Lesnar at this point. And going, oh shit, so we're stuck with fucking Brock Lesnar not showing up. Well, he's not going to fight a Backlash. He's probably not going to fight at Money in the Bank. He's probably not going to fight at Extreme Rules. We'll see you in August. And then he'll drop the title at SummerSlam. You know what I mean? Like, this is a no-win, I think.
Go ahead, Cal.
You're pitching it right there.
Yeah, he's building up to his tirade, I assume. Nice, interesting aspect of this match to me is the steel cage element to it, because that presents a scenario where either guy doesn't have to pin the other one to win the match. And obviously, it seems a bit weird to think of either Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns like escaping the cage to win. But I could see like if they wanted to do some sort of continuation of this, where you still have Brock Lesnar as champion, but Roman Reigns still looks strong. You could have a scenario where Reigns spears Lesnar through the cage, and Lesnar hits the floor first, and so Lesnar technically retains, but Reigns should have won almost. So I can see them doing that sort of bullshit thing. But there's a lot of other aspects to think of it. Heyman is not going to be in Lesnar's corner because Heyman's not traveling out to Saudi Arabia.
He's not going to be there?
No.
Well, there goes one of my predictions right out the window.
So yeah, I think obviously that element to it takes a bit of edge off of Lesnar's aura a little bit to not have Heyman around. And I don't know, like part of me thinks that WWE wouldn't have held back just because they wanted it to be on this show, because they're so desperate to making this show as big as possible, and they didn't want Reigns to get booed in front of a hostile crowd. Because at the end of the day, like, it wasn't just Reigns that was getting booed in that match. Lesnar was getting, like, neither guy was getting cheered in that match. And so you have a weird scenario of, like you say, it's almost a lose-lose. But I'd probably go along the lines thinking that I think Lesnar's sticking around for a while. If you've seen, like, details of his new contract, it's like he makes basically $500,000 per match he's in at this point.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So I think on that sort of deal, Lesnar would be stupid not to stick around, especially if he can just go to UFC as and when he pleases as part of that contract as well. So essentially he's got it made to stay in WWE because he can essentially, as Reigns has been pointing out in storyline, do whatever the fuck he wants. So I don't see why he would want to change that. So if they... I can see... It's weird because I still think Reigns is going to be the next Universal Champion, but I just don't think it's going to be in this match.
God, if they do this match and then they build and they keep Brock Lesnar just hanging around, and then they do fucking Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, I'm going to murder somebody.
It's just like... there's one or two things happen, and like history has taught me that the first thing, which is they realize that Roman Reigns isn't the guy, and they stop pushing him as hard as they would do. Like, there's nothing that has happened in the past 4 years to make me think that that's not the case, that they would actually realize that and not do it. But so the only other like situation would be that they start again, keep pushing Reigns as like the only guy he can't beat is Brock Lesnar. Like, he beats everyone else on Raw, and he just like assumes a dominant position of like, okay, I've beaten this guy, and now Lesnar's got to be a thing. And then Lesnar's just like an obstacle that he hasn't been able to overcome in 4 times. But I think if you do that once or twice, it's fine. Like, if he doesn't beat Lesnar at the first attempt or the second attempt, especially in the ways they did it, like being involved in like multi-man matches and Seth Rollins' cash-in and stuff like that, then yeah, it's fine that he didn't win on those occasions. But then if you get to like the 3rd or 4th time and he still hasn't beaten him, then fans just aren't, especially if fans are so like in tune to thinking that Reigns is like the guy that the office are backing, and he's still not winning the thing. It's just like, well, make up your mind, essentially. Like, is Reigns the guy that you're going to book regardless of what you think, or are you just like holding off on him because you think we're going to react badly? Because if you think we're going to react badly, then guess what? We probably are going to react badly, so you shouldn't do it. But
well, what if they keep this on Brock Lesnar and they don't go with Roman Reigns? Who really is there for him to drop that title to? At this point, Braun Strowman has had his matches. It just seems like it's like you're on constant repeat. He's already had a match with Dean Ambrose, and Ambrose isn't going to get that spot.
I was going to get there, Tony.
Seth Rollins is holding the Intercontinental title, and Seth Rollins isn't going to be the guy that beats Brock Lesnar.
There's 3 men that I have in mind, and one of them's like a really outside thing and maybe just a bit more personal bias, but Braun Strowman is obviously like he's the most over guy on Raw, so you have to at least put him in the conversation for it. Lashley is a big one as well because they both have MMA backgrounds, and Lashley's like new on the scene again after returning and stuff. So he could definitely be pushed into that position. And the other one I'm thinking is Drew McIntyre, which would be a huge leap.
That last one is just you wanting Drew McIntyre to do it.
Part of me wants to do it, but like it's more along the lines of like, I think the thing with Dolph could elevate him quite quickly, and I think he's one of the few people that matches Lesnar in terms of size and build on Raw. Like if you look at the lines like the Seth Rollins or Finn Balor, they don't match up physically to Lesnar, whereas McIntyre is far taller than Lesnar, and he's a similar weight as well, so you can kind of like picture it.
I think it's only Bobby Lashley, unless there's some weird fascination going on with Baron Corbin, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's Lashley, and I mean this is what I would rather see happen, but as much as I don't want Roman Reigns being the champion right now, because I think that they're just going to fuck it up and they're just going to keep booking him as like, here's this babyface that isn't a babyface, that type of a thing. I'd rather see Roman Reigns win the title than to see Brock Lesnar keep it and drop it to Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam, because I don't really like Bobby Lashley. And even though Bobby Lashley's at a better spot now in some ways than what he was the last time I had seen him, I still don't want him to be... I don't want to wait 4 months to get the start of a Bobby Lashley Universal title reign, because then it's already SummerSlam, and it's like, I don't want Bobby Lashley holding that Universal title going into WrestleMania next year. I want him to be in the Battle Royal, or I want him to be in like the Intercontinental title scene or something like that. I don't want him to be a headliner at all against anybody. I'd rather see Roman Reigns win the title here and Bobby Lashley beat Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam in just a regular match, you know?
But if you take the title off of Lesnar, then what? Then why are they fighting?
I don't know, I guess like Bobby Lashley and and Brock Lesnar get into some kind of a scuffle because UFC. Like, maybe something like that, you know? But it's really just, I don't think that there's any scenario that ends here without the Universal Championship being fucked up for a couple months.
Okay. So we've only had one full-time Universal Champion.
Hang on, I haven't finished yet.
Sorry. Oh, Jesus.
No, I was joking. Go ahead.
Oh. Damn it, Callum. We've only had one full-time Universal Champion. Kevin Owens. Brock Lesnar in 2014 broke the streak and literally ran through John Cena, and he beat up everybody for the next year and a half before losing to Goldberg, to solidify the idea that, well, nobody in this era, not even John Cena, can touch Brock Lesnar. So we need to go and get the old badass from the 90s. And I think that's even what Paul Heyman said in his induction speech, right? So now we get to WrestleMania, and Brock beats the shit out of Roman Reigns. Like, I watched that match 3 times, and I cannot figure out why. What context do you have for giving Roman Reigns another match? Except, well, he's determined to be the guy. But if he was going to be the guy, why don't you just pull the trigger at Mania and let people boo and just get over it and move on? And if you're so determined to say that nobody in this era can beat Brock Lesnar, that you could even have Dean Ambrose come at him with the chainsaw and Brock doesn't flinch, except for when old man Goldberg takes off his shirt, well then, put the title on the line in the damn Rumble match, because Lesnar, even the mighty Brock Lesnar, can't beat 49 other guys. But no. So here we go with the cage.
No, if the title was on the line in the Royal Rumble match, you know that it would end with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns as the last two.
Well, no, I was thinking either you could have him defend it, or let Brock go, and then, hey, we're going to do the Greatest Royal Rumble, and it will determine a new Universal Champion. Simple, but no, they had to do this thing.
I'm really thinking that a good portion of this is probably just Roman Reigns could get cheered here. I really put a lot into that, because It might not be the case, it might be something where they're just like, well, another thing too, maybe this is a scenario where they put the steel cage in there because they're like, Roman can win by escaping. And it's lame as hell.
It's the old Bruno Sammartino thing where they had, I think it was Ivan Koloff beat him in a cage because you don't have to pin him. You can just leave the cage.
No, Koloff pinned him.
He pinned him, and it was
it was a knee
like the type of thing where it was like he pinned him, and it was one of those lame old things where it's like, like 1, 2, 3, oh my god, he might have sort of kicked out, kind of, and it was over his neck, and like that kind of a thing and stuff, and
yeah,
he lost the 3-year title reign in some kind of a shoddy fashion too, didn't he?
It was Billy Graham had his feet on the
ropes. That one I've seen. But I had heard that the whole new Northeast Territory started that rule with the cage match so that, you don't have to make the champion or the dominant guy look weak by eating a pinfall. So they could go that route here.
But it's so weak for Roman Reigns. Like, you could only win a match with Brock Lesnar because you didn't have to pin him. You just ran away.
But that's my whole issue. At some point, with this era of guys, you need to establish an actual star, an actual guy that's like, wow, that guy could take on the other big stars. Every time they get the opportunity, they rub it in our face that this generation means jack shit.
See, I actually have a different perspective of this. I think that booking Brock Lesnar the way that they've booked him is a mistake because they're putting him as a top star. I don't think we're in an era that we used to be where we have one guy and we should revolve a company around one guy. Because it used to be, you were going to the old shows to see Andre the Giant. And you were going to see Bruno Sammartino, and you were going to see Hulk Hogan, and you were going to see Stone Cold, and even John Cena. It was like, well, are you really going just to see John Cena? Or are you going to see John Cena at the top of a card that includes Randy Orton, CM Punk, Batista, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, so on and so forth? And I think even more now, if you were to tell me Roman Reigns is, because Roman Reigns is the guy. Let's not even mince words. Roman Reigns is their version of this guy, what they want it to be at the very least. If you were to tell me there's a house show and Roman Reigns is on the card and we don't know what else is going to be on there, I don't want to go to that house show.
Yeah.
I want to go to the house show if you say to me it's going to have Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Bobby Roode. You might not even announce to me what those matches are, but okay, that's a strong group of people. Cool. I'm not going to go just because of one person. And Brock Lesnar is a huge deal. But if you tell me that Brock Lesnar is the only thing that you're advertising on a house show, I don't give a shit. I'm not spending money on it. Back in the day, if you told me Hulk Hogan was on a card, and it didn't matter what the hell else there was, people are going to go. And I think the problem with a Brock Lesnar booking is you're trying to set up this idea as he's so far above and beyond everybody else, and who's going to be the guy to step up to beat him and take his spot as the guy. But we don't need the guy. We just need the guys. Why can't Braun Strowman be just as much of a top guy as Kevin Owens and Baron Corbin and Dash Wilder, whatever the fuck, that I think is the stronger card. So fuck WWE for trying to set up Roman Reigns as this main draw type of guy. It's not going to work, I think. And at that point, you need to get rid of Brock Lesnar. You need to stop doing this with Roman Reigns. And the earlier that we get Roman Reigns just winning the title and getting somewhat lost in the shuffle, which sounds kind of weird to say, the better, I think.
I think he'll be the top guy, but he'll be the top guy in the vein of a Batista. Like, Batista was the top guy for a few years, but he wasn't the end-all, be-all of the company.
No. That's the thing, yeah. He's not going to reach Hulk Hogan status. And partially because they fucking booked him this way. Like, he's not charismatic enough, and he's not over the top enough in any kind of way. So, book him like a Batista. Like you said, make him the main event type of guy, but that you need the other main event guys to sell it, you know? And whether Lesnar retains and they just keep this same shit going, the same story of like he's better than everybody else and he'll pop up in 7 months or whatever the case is, Roman Reigns is just going to be the number 2. And if Roman Reigns wins, then we go into why isn't everybody watching it when our top guy is the top guy? And it's like, because we don't need a top guy. Like, it's a no-win situation. I don't think that this ends in any way that is positive for the next couple of months.
I think the era that you're pitching to is like 10 years ago when they had Cena and Batista as the modern top guys, but you still had so much to build around it. And I think you could get there again, but you need to get over this crutch of part-time guys, and I know that's a typical thing to complain about, and for a long time I was actually really cool with a lot of the part-time guys and what they were doing, but it's gotten to a point where it just hurts the everyday product. You know, this is a company that brags about, you know, we don't take an off season, we're 24/7 365, but when you constantly make the point that the guys that are 24/7 aren't as good as the guys that used to be, you're just hurting your product. And we need to get to a point where that just stops so that we can build a brand around, hey, you have Roman Reigns and AJ Styles and Seth Rollins and all these guys, because they do have the best roster that they've had in years. But you don't reflect that because you're just like, oh my God, we have The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey for this one-off show. And we need to get past that. And unfortunately, it's not going to be here because the way I see this one ending is Samoa Joe closes that door on Roman Reigns' face. Brock hits him with the F5, and we're out of here. Brock Lesnar doesn't drop it till he drops it to Lashley. And hopefully Lashley is entertaining enough and enough of a full-time guy to where maybe we could finally get a full-time champion for a few months. Just so that the main brand has a guy and a main championship to fall on.
Callum, what are you thinking? Reigns or Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar retains, and Reigns' journey to the top of the Universal title picture extends until WrestleMania next year.
Well, that's another issue. They've crowned Roman twice already in major form, and he's been champion 3 times. It's not like we need a crowning moment of Roman Reigns. He's been crowned. We just need to move on past this Lesnar thing. I don't get it.
That's the problem with booking Lesnar as above everybody else, because when you have Roman Reigns consistently at the number 2, then they perpetually keep this motion going of, yeah, but he didn't beat Lesnar. Then they keep doing the Lesnar thing, and I think that the Samoa Joe angle is really key here, and I agree with you. I think that Samoa Joe costs Roman Reigns the match, and I'm just gonna go, ugh.
By the way, if they applied any logic, Joe would be trying to help Roman win so he could have the Universal title match at Backlash, but whatever.
Yep.
You know,
I'm hoping, and this sounds dumb, but I'm hoping Roman Reigns wins here. Just because I want to be sick and fucking tired, done with this. And no more Lesnar and Reigns ever again in the future. Not even 5 years from now as like, well, we're revisiting this and you haven't seen it in 5 years. No, never again. Never one more time. Even if it means Brock Lesnar loses through a shitty escape the cage scenario because Brock Lesnar would get his butt hurt if he lost in an actual pinfall, any of that kind of thing. I am hoping a couple months from now, I look back on this and I go, all right, Roman Reigns won the title, Brock Lesnar went off to UFC, and we don't have to deal with him anymore. I'm so past Brock Lesnar at this point. But I think that Samoa Joe is going to cost Roman Reigns, and that their whole thing is going to be, oh, he cost them for that, and Brock Lesnar retained, and we'll see Brock Lesnar either at Money in the Bank or at SummerSlam, probably SummerSlam. He'll probably lose it to Bobby Lashley, and in the meantime, Roman Reigns is going to be like in this bitter feud for 1 week against Samoa Joe, who moves back to SmackDown, and then
he's going to go after the briefcase because I'm going to get my match again, Brock Lesnar, and he's going to lose the briefcase to the guy he's going to feud with at SummerSlam, and they'll work his way back into WrestleMania.
Well, what I'm really hoping isn't the case is, since Money in the Bank comes before Extreme Rules here, that they're not going to set up Roman Reigns with another feud. They're going to put him in the Money in the Bank match, and I really, really hope we don't get Brock Lesnar has to defend the Universal Championship at SummerSlam against Roman Reigns, who wins the Money in the Bank, and he cashes in, and he goes, I want one more fucking match. I will be so pissed off if they do that.
No, because they did this exact story in 2015 where Roman lost, but he got screwed over by Rollins. Then he goes after the briefcase, and then they just had Wyatt stop him so he could feud with Wyatt for 3 or 4 months or whatever it was until they were ready for him to chase the championship again.
This just sullies everything. I hate this. But even though that has major ramifications going forward, one match that doesn't, oddly enough, is the 50-man fucking Royal Rumble. And part of the reason why that has no ramifications is because nothing is on the line. There is just a trophy. And another scenario that kind of gets a little bit confusing here, they clearly don't know who is in this match yet. Or at least WWE.com doesn't know. Because they have changed the lineup so many times that they've taken people off of it, they've added people, then they've taken them off again. They have people on posters that aren't listed as guaranteed. They have people that they have guaranteed on Monday Night Raw, like Sami Zayn, who aren't listed on the website. Currently on the website, there are 23 names that are on there. And if you read this list, which is not in alphabetical order, nor is it in order of when they were announced, it's just completely random, you can hear that there are some names that are missing. They have Daniel Bryan, Braun Strowman, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, Chris Jericho, Mark Henry, Rey Mysterio, Elias, Kevin Owens, The Great Khali, Bobby Roode, Baron Corbin, The New Day, Titus Worldwide, Shelton Benjamin, Sin Cara, Chad Gable, Goldust, Mojo Rawley, and Dolph Ziggler. Sami Zayn is not on that list. Sami Zayn was said to be on Monday Night Raw to be in this match. We have no Randy Orton on that list. Yesterday, they put a statement out there saying Randy Orton, Mark Henry, etc., etc. So they literally added something on WWE.com saying Randy Orton is in the match and then didn't put him in the list. So you can't go by the list on the website. I've been trying to keep track of everybody, and I currently have a list of 24 people. But there are more than 24 people that have been announced. So the people that I know they've 100% at some point guaranteed to be in there are those 23 people, as well as Sami Zayn and looking through the list right now.
Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens is on the list on .com.
Oh, that's weird.
Who else was there? All right, it's hard to kind of keep track of it. Randy Orton is not in my 24, but that's the thing too. Big Show was announced for this. Big Show's not on the list. He's been on promotional material though. So have Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. So has Bobby Lashley. So has The Revival. So has Breezango. And Heath Slater and
with
Rhino.
50 men, isn't it assumed like anybody that you can? I wouldn't even bother, writing a list. I just put 50-man Royal Rumble, including all these names and more. I wouldn't bother trying to update the list because with 50 men, you've got to assume that anyone who can be on that match will be there, you know?
Right. And there's a very high likelihood that not only are those people that have been announced and the people that are on the posters and stuff going to be in there, but that other people that have wrestled earlier in the night are going to continue on like that. However, there are people that they haven't been announced one way or another, and these are the only ones that I think are pretty much off the schedule for it. Andrade Cien Almas, because they've been saying coming soon to SmackDown. If he shows up in the Battle Royal, I still want it to be Battle Royal. If he shows up in the Royal Rumble and he just gets eliminated and he doesn't do anything, I think that that's a weak entrance for him. So I would not be shocked at all if they keep him off of this just to kind of go, look, show up after Backlash. Sanity is in the same kind of aspect. The Authors of Pain, because what are they going to do? Are they going to have separate entrances and they're really going to just eliminate Akam and Rezar separately? I don't think so.
Big Show can do it.
They haven't announced Big Cass yet, but I think that he'll be in there. He might not, though. Epico is out with an injury, so there's a chance Primo doesn't get his separate spot, because do you really want to waste an entrance on Primo? Probably not. Dean Ambrose is still injured. Maybe he makes his grand return, maybe he doesn't. I don't think he's going to return here. I would not be shocked at all if Drew McIntyre is not in this match, because they don't want him to lose either. Jason Jordan has been mentioned recently. Maybe he makes his return, maybe not. They pulled Kane from the list. I guess he's just doing something with his campaign. Maybe they don't show Mike Kanellis. Maybe R-Truth isn't ready to go yet because he hasn't wrestled since his return.
He was in the Andre.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally don't even remember that. Samir Singh is still injured. And Sunil might not be in this because Sunil might just kind of hang around ringside for a Jinder Mahal's match. But they could throw him in there, you know. And Zack Ryder is currently injured. He had his match against Mike Kanellis, and he suffered some kind of an injury. They said that he's going to undergo an MRI, and he's not actually traveling there. So Zack Ryder is taken off the list. We also don't know if there are people from NXT that can show up here, and if there are, then who. And we don't know if the Cruiserweights are available. And they've brought in some weird names here, so, you know, let's talk about those in a minute. But other people who are not a part of the main roster, they could be showing up as well, too.
I've got to believe that anyone, like all the Cruiserweights, just anyone that's on the payroll that can make the travel, they have going to this thing, because how many surprises can you really have?
5.
Well, with 50, considerably more than a traditional Royal Rumble, at least. Because, like you say, like there's certain people on the main roster that you just don't want to waste space on, because people in America don't know who they are really, let alone Saudi Arabia. So,
but I really think that this is the kind of match for those people, because, you know, you got to fill some space here.
I don't see why you have to fill your space. I don't know why you can't just put your 50 top guys into that.
Well, we got some people that are not on the main roster on here. We've got Shane McMahon. I'm assuming Triple H and John Cena, maybe The Undertaker as well. Maybe Big Show is still coming back. Mark Henry said that he's making his return here. We got Rey Mysterio advertised, so I guess he's healthy enough to do this. Randomly, we have the Great Khali, which, Saudi Arabia, he's not from Saudi Arabia, but there is still some kind of a crossover with that. Sort of like, you know, this person's from North America, so let's put them in this Canadian show, or, you know, that's just how that operates. And ignorant fucking Americans do this kind of stuff all the time, where we're just kind of like, well, that's Middle East, and it's whatever. Hey, you're from Europe, so you totally should be on that UK show, like that kind of a thing. It happens all the time. Who that hasn't been announced yet that could be potentially in the running for here, would you guys like to see? I'd like maybe Carlito, but that's kind of asking too much. I think it'd be cool to see MVP.
I'm just trying to think people.
You kept asking for him at the Andre. Why not Goldberg? Like,
I wasn't wanting Goldberg at the Andre. Just that was a rumor that was going around.
How about Shaq?
Shaquille O'Neal just pops up.
I'm thinking like it's hard to think of like too many wrestlers that are like just completely unattached that would have like value attached to them. Like if I was looking, I'm maybe looking towards NXT a little bit more. Maybe someone like Velveteen Dream. Although I think his character probably wouldn't come across too well in Saudi Arabia, so maybe not him.
Oh yeah.
Fuck it, have him win.
But maybe you put Aleister Black in there. You could put Johnny Gargano in there.
They could put Adam Cole.
Yeah, Tommaso Ciampa. You could put Lars Sullivan in there. Would be good in a Royal Rumble.
Throw the Undisputed Era just to fill some spots.
Yeah. So they're still there. I mean, at the end of the day, 49 people have got to go over the top rope at the end of this. So you're going to make a lot of people not look bad necessarily, but only one person can win at the end of it. So it doesn't really hurt too much to have someone like a Drew McIntyre or something like that lose because he's one of 48 other people that lost the match. And if he comes in early, it's not likely that he's going to survive the entire way through. So I don't think it matters too much who you're trying to protect, as long as you make them look good for a few minutes while they're in there. So yeah, so I don't mind who it is, pretty much, as long as like the winner is not someone who's completely out left field. So I don't want this to be the match that Kurt Hawkins finally wins. Let's put it that way.
I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to put Khali over in a match like this, which I would hate. But stupider things have happened. They brought him back for a Punjabi prison match just to say, "Hey, Khali was at the Punjabi prison match."
Do you think they'll bring back the the scooter things for this as well? I don't know how long the ramp is for.
Yeah.
But with Khali, you might just have to carry him all the way to the ring anyway. So.
Yes, I definitely think you see the return of the scooters. What do you guys think about maybe having somebody go from 1 to 50 and winning the whole thing?
There's a lot of potential for records to be broken here. If somebody starts off at maybe even at the very first 10, they can beat Rey Mysterio's record if they last until the end. Because this is going to be over an extra half an hour on top of this, just from entrances. If they keep the 90-second thing, it's an hour and a half long match. And if they move it down to 60 seconds, it's around the same type of time frame and stuff. But yeah, somebody could go from number 1 to number 50. I don't think it's going to happen here, though.
I mean, you'd need someone with like amazing endurance to do that.
You would need like a Finn Balor
and they've already had a ladder match beforehand as well. So
yeah, so I think that's going to be tough. But I'm actually almost kind of thinking that they're going to book this. Well, first off, let me say this. I don't think that they gave a shit. Mm-hmm. I think that this is a match that, since nothing is on the line, they are going to look at this as like, let's just have some fun and throw everything out there. And I'm not going to put a lot of stock in this person eliminated that person and that's going to start a feud or something like that. I really think that this is going to be just sort of like whatever. And I don't think that they're really thinking ahead of time as far as like, do we want this person to look strong or this person to look strong or this person to look strong versus the records and stuff. But there is a chance we get a new Iron Man that beats Rey Mysterio's time. There's also a very, very solid chance that The Undertaker surpasses Kane's most all-time elimination record, because he's at 40 right now, and Kane's at either 43 or 44, depending on if they count the Isaac Yankem one. All Undertaker needs is 4 or 5 eliminations, and he beats that record.
Do you think this goes on last?
It has to.
I think
it has to.
If it doesn't, then we really know that they didn't care. But if it does, then maybe you can put some stock into the winner.
I don't even think you can, no matter what, because it's for a trophy. It's no title shot. It has no bearing on Backlash. It has no bearing on Money in the Bank. I
also wouldn't be surprised if they woke up and decided, you know what? The winner of this gets a title shot at SummerSlam. I would not be surprised.
Neither would I. But there's also a chance that we get the Roman Reigns 12 eliminations record beaten, because if somebody comes in here and they start tossing people out left and right, they might not even really necessarily have this planned as like, how many people should this person eliminate? And they could find themselves in a situation where John Cena eliminates 13 people or something. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. I think we're going to get a lot of people here that are completely inconsequential. And I also think a lot of people are going to be disappointed because somebody like a Kurt Angle is going to come in and he's not going to do all that much. Somebody will just toss him out. Like, he'll last a little bit and he'll stick around and he'll do whatever, but, you know, Kevin Owens will throw him out or something like that. And our final four could be 4 people that make a lot of sense, or they could be 4 random ass people, because it's not like it's the actual Royal Rumble where you have WrestleMania on the line. So we could get some random people. It could be our final 4 is Elias and Baron Corbin and Rey Mysterio and Shane McMahon. Like, it wouldn't make any sense at all, but it could happen. Just the same as the winner. They could pick anybody for this. Although, if I have to say, I think I narrowed it down to 3. It's either Bobby Lashley, Daniel Bryan, or Braun Strowman.
Well, damn it, Tony. I guess we're in sync, because I have narrowed it down to the exact same 3 people.
If you had to pick a 4th, who would it be? Because there's a 4th that comes to my mind.
If I had to pick a 4th name for this, it would be somebody like a Big Show. If they just wanted to, hey, the big guy, the big legend won, you know? It would be a legend.
So I'd go Baron Corbin.
I don't think I would love that. I don't think they have enough faith in Baron Corbin.
What about you, Callum? Who stands out to you as potential winners for this?
Daniel Bryan is the main one that sticks in my mind. Is like someone who's coming back, and this is even though it's an inconsequential match, it's still like a big way to show that, okay, we're behind Daniel Bryan, show the fans that, like, yeah, he's back and he's going to be better than ever before. Braun Strowman is also like a really good option, just due to the size and the fact that he hasn't really shown his dominance in a Battle Royal scenario or Royal Rumble scenario. So giving him the win here would be, again, a good way to elevate him. And maybe if you do have, well, either Lesnar or Reigns winning the Universal Championship, having him win this immediately puts him into that sort of category for the next challenger or a challenger down the line. I'm thinking also maybe the Undertaker, because I'm quite like stuck with the idea that I think Undertaker's going to be in a World Championship match at WrestleMania next year. And so he might, if you're going to be doing the thing of this is his final run and he's going to be looking bigger and badder and better than ever, then if you decide to put Undertaker in this match as well as the casket match, then he wins this, he sends the message to everyone that he's going to be back and he's going to be like defeating people and like picking up more souls and winning championships along the way up till WrestleMania, where he inevitably loses to John Cena. Then you give him this match as well as the Rusev one. But
if you guys had to pick a Mojo Rawley, just like a, wait, what? They gave it to this person? Who would you think that could be?
Jericho. And it's obviously a big name, so it seems like a little bit weird, but like Jericho's always been kind of like the other guy in a Royal Rumble match. Like someone, he could potentially win it, but he's always like the last guy. And also, he doesn't have any standing in WWE at the moment, really, so it would just be a bit left field for him to win it.
I would give it to... honestly, you say like a Mojo Rawley type pick in this type of situation. If Dolph Ziggler wins it here, like Callum said, we're going to be doing a little monitor of how many times he teases that he's going to get eliminated and manages to stay in. Maybe they give it to Ziggler. Maybe this is one throwaway victory for Ziggler.
If Ziggler wins, then I don't care how good his Drew McIntyre stuff is. I still fucking hate him, and because I don't care if this match has no stakes attached to it. Don't waste it on Dolph Ziggler.
Does this match become more of a chore to watch with no stakes attached, or will you still have fun like if it was any other Royal Rumble.
I think I'll still have some fun, but it is going to be a little bit harder.
I think it can make it a bit more enjoyable, really, because even though it doesn't have the stakes attached to it, it means you can just have a bit of a laugh with it or something.
Yeah, you can shut your brain off. You don't have to worry about who wins, who loses. Yeah.
You can have things like Heath Slater. You could have like the 3MB reunion in the middle of this match or whatever. Just have like them trying to do the little post thing, and then Drew McIntyre just takes them both out and throws them over the top rope. That would be pretty cool.
I really hope they do book this like that, where they've got like fun moments, and it's not just the type of thing where it's like, all right, here's a normal Royal Rumble, but we need to separate it in two. And let's have like number 1 is really big, and number 2 is really big, and then a couple of jobbers, and then number 8 is really big, and then a couple of jobbers, and then number 12 is really big, and then a couple of jobbers, and then when we hit number 26 or something, then everything gets completely reset back to normal, and now we're getting the second half. You know what I mean? I really, really don't want one of those. Oh my God, I especially don't want one of those Royal Rumbles like I think it was the 2010 one or so.
11.
With CM Punk eliminating everybody at the first, like 9 people.
Yeah, that was the
Oh, wait, you mean the... No, not the one where he's with the Nexus. The one where he cuts the promo in the middle of the match?
I don't want that.
Yeah, that was...
Or the Nexus thing. I don't want... Well, I mean, we're not going to get the Nexus thing because we don't have one stable that's dominant right now.
Unless they decide to throw one in there.
I don't think any of the stables. I think if you throw Sanity in there, they're not going to make that big of a deal and stuff. But, like, I don't want that, like, somebody starts off at number 1 and they eliminate number 2 and number 3 and number 4 and number 5 and number 6 until number 7 comes out and it's a big name like a John Cena. And then now we start filling it back up, and then that person goes, and then we eliminate everybody, and then we're halfway through, and now we're going to go to the second half. I really don't want that. I want this to be a full-on gauntlet. Just have people come, people go. Maybe the first elimination is when the number 4 comes out. Maybe the second elimination is when the number 10 comes out. Fill up the ring a little bit, you know? Don't make it be 46 people in the ring, but kind of keep it, like, balanced a little bit. And I'm a little bit concerned that it's not going to be because of the fact that it's not important.
Do we see the champions in here? Like, do you see AJ Styles in here, or maybe even a Roman Reigns if they put this match on last?
I don't think either Reigns or Lesnar will be in this match, regardless of who wins or loses that match. But Styles potentially, or Nakamura. Like, I think you could definitely put them into that match. I just think that with the steel cage, you just wouldn't put one of the top people in it.
It's tough because nothing is on the line, so they don't have to worry about putting the champions in there, but maybe they just don't put them in there. I know Brock Lesnar's not being in it.
Well, yeah.
Everybody else, I think, is fair game, and it's going to be really interesting to see where they go from here, but it's also something where at the end of this, when we do our post-show, we're still not going to know where the hell this is going because we got Backlash coming up. So we really don't know where this roster is going to stay until May 9th, after Raw and SmackDown afterward. So keep that in mind, everybody.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one person, who do you think is going to win this? It was, I think Callum said Daniel Bryan, right?
Daniel Bryan's my main choice of winning this.
So I have it in case of scenarios. If they want to go and push the heart and endurance, then they go with Bryan. If they want to push strength and sheer raw animal power, then they go with Strowman. And if they want to kind of go in the middle and make a star, they go with Lashley. Gun to my head, I think they're going with Lashley.
And I might as well just balance it all out by saying I'm going Braun Strowman. Although, hell, I don't know. Maybe Jason Jordan wins this.
I really want to see Daniel Bryan and Braun Strowman and Lashley be the final 3 now.
Just so all of us are like, oh, goddamn it, what the hell? Well, tell us what you guys think is going to happen in the comment section below on YouTube or on the page on smarkoutmoment.com if you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher. Whether it's the 50-man Royal Rumble or anything else like that, if you agree or you disagree with anything we have to say, go ahead and tell us what your thoughts are about that as well. And stay tuned for the end of the pay-per-view. Obviously, the pay-per-view coverage on smarkoutmoment.com. But at the end of that, we're going to do a post-show, which will be 6 o'clock or something like that on Friday afternoon. So this is kind of weird.
That's weird.
But hey, it is what it is. So that's coming up. And if you want to be aware of when that's posted, then hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications on YouTube as well. And you could also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment on both of those platforms. Subscribe to the RSS feed of smarkoutmoment.com too. And follow me elsewhere at fanboysanonymous.com on everything like that. Avengers Infinity War is tomorrow. Fuck yeah. Can't wait to do that. And I'll have a review up for that movie. Go back and check out the Batman Ninja rundown that I did, because that movie sucked.
Oh no, did it?
I'm not an anime fan, so I hated it.
Oh, no, I'm kind of sad. I'm not looking forward to that as much.
Yeah. If you like anime, you'll like it. If you hate anime like I do, you'll hate it. And anything else that I decide to do, if I just want to tweet at random, you'll find me at not a Tony Mango, at Tony Mango, or a Mango Tree, or anywhere else like that. You can follow these guys as well on all their platforms. Callum?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. That's it for me.
And Robert?
I'm at Dude Felice everywhere. DudeFelice.com coming soon. TimekillerApparel.com, buy a t-shirt. And PandemoniumMania.com getting revamped real soon. And buy a shirt from Smark Out Moment. TeePublic, Redbubble. Nicholas Club is still up there. Go get it while you can.
Everybody needs shirts. Buy them. Well, thank you for listening to this, everybody. We will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.